23-320, Committee of the Whole meeting Wednesday, May 31st, 2023 at 6 p.m. is called to order. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Vice President Bear.
Present.
Council Carrier.
Present.
Council Collins.
Present.
Council Knight. Present. Council Scarpelli. Present. Council Sang. Council Sang. President Morrell.
Present, 6 present, 1 absent. Meeting is called to order. There will be a meeting of the Medford City Council Committee of the Whole on Wednesday, May 31st, 2023 at 6 p.m. in the Medford City Council chamber on the 2nd floor of Medford City Hall and via Zoom. The purpose of the meeting is to discuss the proposed FY24 budget for the City of Medford, paper 23-320. The following proposed departmental budgets will be presented: Assessor, Elections Commission, Executive, Human Resources Law, Planning, Development, Sustainability, Police Department, Treasurer Collector, and Veteran Services. The City Council has invited Chief of Staff Nina Nazarian, Finance Director Bob Dickinson, and the department heads for the departmental budgets listed above to attend this meeting. For further information, aids, and accommodations, contact the City Clerk at 781-393-2425. Sincerely yours, Nicole Morrell. We do have a request to take, I think, HR and Treasurer Collector first, because I know folks have, and elections first, and then we'll get, all right, I'm gonna write this down, then we'll go to police. So we will start with Treasurer Collector unless councilors have any questions or statements they want to make before we get started. Seeing none, so let me just find the page for Treasurer Collector. 112. Yeah, we're doing Treasurer 112. Okay.
And I'll sit.
So whatever you'd like. If you want to sit, yeah, we'll make sure that mic is on. And what I'll do is I will just read the total for your department. And then if you can give us any summary you want to share or any highlights, and then we'll go to questions from the council. So for a Treasurer Collector, the expenditure summary is $719,418, up $16,480, 2.34% from the previous year. And we have Judy Johnson here to give us an overview. If you want to give us any overview or summary of your department, and then we'll go to questions about the budget.
Okay. Okay. An overview.
Or anything you'd like to share, what you're looking for in this budget, or anything you want to highlight. We can also just go right to questions.
No, it's just the same as last year. Just we moved a few things around, changed a few things for professional financial. We dropped that down and increased data processing. Everything else is pretty much the same.
Great. Thank you. Questions from the council? Vice President Bears.
Thank you. Thanks for being here, Judy. Just wondering on the tax title collections, what work are we doing prior to sending things out for collection to try to help people get back up to speed?
We send out 4 notices. We send out the 4 bills. We send out a demand notice that goes out in May. Then we start sending out letters, and we send out 4 letters. We space them out. Next year, we're going to start, moving them closer together so people remember. And then after the 4 letters, we do an advertisement, and then we put them into tax title. When they go into tax title, we have Brown Legal working as our tax title attorneys, and they reach out to the residents, and they try to help them. If it's over $25,000 that they owe, then they can start with land court and all the proceedings, but the people do get notified. They do try to work with them to help them. We have had, I think, 3 or 4 properties that they were in the middle of foreclosing on, and they helped the people, to sell them so that they could get money from them, and, the city gets their money too.
Okay. And is there anything just before the step of sending it to Brown that we do beyond the letters, like inviting them in to have a conversation, or do we try to talk to them on the phone, or like what does the letter say? It just says, please pay now, I'm guessing.
The letter says you're delinquent, please pay. If you don't pay, we have to have the certain things listed in the letter that's going to be advertised. It's a notice to collect. We do add charges to the letter. We have a $10 demand fee, and when the letters go out, there's a $22 fee added on to that letter. And then we don't add any more. If it's just interest after that until it hits the tax title.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilor Scarpelli.
Thanks for being here, Ms. Johnson. Just a couple of questions. How is the department staffed? Is it staffed appropriately for what
Yes,
we're doing?
we are full staff now.
Okay, so how many people is that?
We have 4 clerks, we have a payroll clerk, and we have the assistant treasurer collector and myself.
Okay, good. I just have one question off the budget, but I know that I've been getting a lot of phone calls because it falls, people starting to fall in my age group. People that worked for recreation. I think we talked.
Yes.
I know what I've told them is to wait. This is after the pandemic. During the pandemic, they were looking for hours, the years of service because they're going into retirement.
Yes, we are up to date with those. Any that we have a payroll clerk goes right down and researches them,
Okay,
and we
good.
get the information right out to them. We were behind
All right.
prior, but we're all caught up.
All right, it's good. So I appreciate it. So if they, I know I had a phone call last week about that, so I could just have them go to. the
Just send it right over to either I or to the payroll clerk, which is Lawrence, and
Perfect.
we'll take care of that for them.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other questions from the council? Seeing none.
Thank you
so
very much.
All right, we will go to human resources. Do we have someone here? Great. Human resources is page 96.
Sit or stand, if you're sitting down.
So human resources, the expenditure summary is $202,357, up $13,199, 6.98% from the previous year. And we have Lisa Crowley, Director of Human Resources. Good to meet you. If you want to give us any highlights, also knowing you're new in the role, but anything you'd like to share about the budget looking forward, and then we'll go to questions.
Sure. Thank you, Madam President, councilors. It's really nice to get to know you and meet you. Hopefully, we can meet in other circumstances as well. But so I believe some of the highlights are that we have, oh, sorry, thank you. So we have hired, I would say, 13 new emergency responders. We've created a consistent and comprehensive hiring interview process now. We are working to coordinate with the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Director to make sure that our 2 departments collaborate together on all new hires, how we write contracts, how we go through the CBAs to make sure that we're becoming up to date with the DEI sections of those contracts.
Great, thank you. We'll go to Councilor Carviallo.
Thank you. Nice to meet you as well.
Quick question. Prior to you coming on here, we had a lot of issues with employees' insurances. Are those all squared away now?
Yes, so we have,
Everybody's properly insured now?
everybody is properly insured. Yes.
That's it.
Thank you. Any other questions from councilors at this time? Councilor Scarpelli.
Thank you, Ms. Crowley, for being here, and welcome to Medford. I know that we had some issues, like Councilor Carviallo said, everybody's on board. Okay, I know that we were told that we had some municipal workers being paid, having their personal insurance while they were waiting for this. They were acquiring Cobra.
Okay.
And do you know if they've been compensated for that?
So that I don't know. I can definitely
Okay.
find out for you
I'd
and look into
appreciate
that. Yeah, I think
And,
that was before I got here.
Yeah,
so
definitely, yeah.
I'll have to look into that for you,
I
but I
appreciate
certainly
that.
will. Yep.
And how are we staffed in the HR department?
So HR is never staffed enough in any
Right.
community across the municipality. But we are doing, we have the right people in the right positions right now. So
Okay.
we're doing pretty well.
So you're okay with the
I am.
staff that we have? Okay. Thank
Currently,
you.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Back to Councilor, we'll go to Councilor Sang, then we'll go to Councilor Carviallo.
Thanks. And just a follow-up to that last response. I was wondering what a properly staffed department might look like. What do you think are the most immediate hires that you would make if we had more resources as a city?
So you mean globally or just in the HR department?
Just in yours. Yeah.
So typically there's 3 to 4 staff for this size community. So we have 3 FTEs if I have 2 part-timers. So if you put them together, they're full-time. So I mean, we're typically a 3 to 4, sometimes 5, but because the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Department is separate, that helps with us too. So, I mean, we're properly staffed for right now. Again, I think I'm week 3 in. So, I'm still kind of figuring out what needs to be where. So, as we work through that next year, it might be something different, but right now, we're properly staffed.
Thanks, and welcome to Medford.
Thank you.
Counselor Carviallo.
Thank you. I should have asked this before. A lot of companies are paying their employees stipends to go onto the spouse's plan. Are we planning to do anything like that in the city to?
Are you talking about an opt-out plan type of
Yes.
thing? We're looking at all those avenues right now. Like I said, trying to sit back, take a 360 view of what's going on in the department. But we do have a PEC meeting coming up. I just sent out an email to confirm a July 21st meeting. So that's all kinds of stuff that we would discuss in that meeting.
That's something
That's one of the topics.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Vice President Bears?
Thank you, Madam President. Do you have an opinion on how many staff we need globally for the city, since you said the word?
So, so right now, we do have some postings coming up. We have done a lot of hires. I watched last night and I realized, it would be nice to have an assistant city solicitor and city solicitor. So we're going to be working diligently on that as well. Again, my first municipal job was in 1996. So I've been doing this for a little while, and we're never properly staffed. No
Yeah.
department, and it's just hard to staff everybody. So we do with what we have. I think we're pretty good now. I think with the positions that we have open, that we're going to be trying to get people and qualified people in for the jobs. I think once we get through that process, we should be good to go.
Great. And my one other question, I asked it last night since you were watching, you probably heard me ask it. The compensation and classification study.
June 29th is my meeting with the Collins Center.
Great, cool.
I did look that up because I did hear that question.
Welcome to
I paid
Medford.
attention.
No, yeah, I'm like, this is great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Any other questions from the council? Seeing none. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It'll be nice meeting you on a
Same here.
different occasion.
All right, we will go to Elections Commission. That is page 88. We have our elections manager, Melissa Ripley here. I also see Henry Miller in. The expenditure summary is $340,196, up $15,655, 4.82% versus the prior year. Manager Ripley.
So over the last 6 months, obviously I'm the new election manager, and we're trying to streamline things and move things forward, checking at what we've done in the past and what we can do differently based on conferences I've gone to. Some of the things we've done is we've purchased 2 secure election boxes. One will be outside so that people can drive by and drop off their census and ballots. The other one will be inside the building. And again, the idea is for people to feel secure about the election. We purchased 2 metal boxes that will be available and lockable during early voting, just again, to give people the sense that we are doing the right thing with their ballots. We're working really hard. We're soliciting for more election workers because we can never have enough election workers. So here's my plug. If you're watching and you want to be an election worker, please join us. And I think we've done a really good job. So thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Councilor Carviallo.
We see there's a cutback on staff from a full-time senior clerk to a part-time clerk.
Ideally, we'd have a bazillion people working full-time for elections. We're looking at streamlining our process, making sure that we're utilizing the city funds to the best of our ability. We do have a part-time position that is in the play. If for some reason we need to have a full-time person, we can certainly do that. I think during the off times, we are slower, and so it doesn't make sense to have a full-time person in the office. But after the elections, after the first election, we'll look at what we have, and if we need to have a full-time person, we can make that change.
So when is the full-time clerk going part-time?
Well, we have to put the job posting out. So as soon as the job posting goes out for the part-time person, we'll then.
So, is there someone working in that position right now?
No. Nope.
No, there's nobody working there.
Nobody working the position now. We do have one person who's coming in for about 8 hours a week to help us in the short term, but they're not a permanent employee. They're just a temporary.
That is a union position, correct?
That is correct.
Is that a violation of the union protocol?
HR is working on that. I am not privy to any of that, so I just let HR handle that because they're the experts.
Okay. How are we on our staffing for the polls on election day?
We are working on our staffing for our polls. We've sent a letter out to all of our election workers, seeing if they're coming back. We do have some holes. We've sent a letter out to both of the city parties. We're waiting to hear back from them. They have until June 15th to respond. 6 weeks out from the election, we have some flexibility. If we don't have any additional workers, we can go outside of the city as long as they're registered voters in the state of Massachusetts. So we're working on it. It's an ever-evolving process, and we're trying to recruit enough people.
I also see there was a 73% reduction in repair and maintenance of equipment. Does that include our voting machines also?
So what we did was we moved that money to our contingency funds to hopefully sort of clean up the line items so we know what line items go where. We have the Automark machines, which we have a contract to have cleaned. The state pays that contract for us. With LHS, we pay for the yearly maintenance on LHS machines, but the yearly maintenance isn't that great.
So the contingency plan has 52,000 in it.
Yep.
That's 100% more than it had last year.
Yes, because we moved things from other line items into that budget just so that we could make sure that all of the LHS items, which are the contingency items, are in one place so it's easier to track going forward. So we can see what we're paying where.
And what is the status of our census now?
Right now, we've received most of the census that we're going to receive back. We sent out 15,000 postcards letting people know that they have been moved from active status to inactive status. What that means is if they go to the polls and they haven't reactivated themselves, they do have to show ID. We will never turn somebody away from the polls. Everybody will be able to vote. It's just going to take a couple minutes more if they don't return those inactivation cards.
And my last question, the clerks in your office still haven't gotten a raise either, correct?
Say that again?
The clerks in your office have not gotten a raise.
That is correct. They're waiting for the union raise to happen. However, I will say that Joan Lamoni did get a promotion recently, so she is now the head clerk instead of the senior clerk.
And that's it for me at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Scarpelli.
Thank you, Madam President. Chris Ripley, thank you. But I not to be critical, but I think that this is something that this council worked very hard to make sure that this department was staffed appropriately. We've had some issues in the past, and we worked diligently to make sure that your position was here to lead us the right way.
And I appreciate that.
And I appreciate you, but what I don't appreciate is that the lack of fight for more staff. I mean, to think that to mention that you're staffed is not enough to do when we're looking at 3 major elections that are coming up in the next couple of years, right? And the questions that arise in just that period, it's like a firefighter. They could sit in their fire station for 10 days without a fire, then all of a sudden have 3 major blazes and they earn their pay. And I think this council has shown our commitment to make sure that it's staffed correctly. As a municipal employee, I know one of the big things we talk about is when we meet with the city clerk, city solicitor, that we're very cautious of when we move a position from a full-time to a part-time position, making sure that it's not union, because there are huge liabilities and labor laws that affect that. So I will be honest with you, that this will be one of the things that I look at when it comes to voting on the budget, because I think for this council that has put so much effort in really making sure that this office is fully staffed and fully funded, I'm not going to quit now. And I think that, you have one of the strongest supporters behind you, and I'd love to get his input later on, and Mr. Miller, in that, he's walked the walk every day for the last 1,000 years here, making sure the elections are run the proper way. And I can't see him not being a supporter, being a supporter of this. So this might be something that I look at, that I'll ask the mayor to make this a full funded position because I know you're part of the team, so I'm not putting you on the spot because
Yeah.
I'm on that other side. So I don't expect you to say, George, no, we're all right. We're great. I know we're not, but I will let you know from my personal opinion. I think for a few reasons that this position has to be funded. So thank you.
If I can
Sure.
explain something.
Yep.
The part-time position is part-time, in theory. During the elections, the part-time position will increase. As long as we keep the steady number of hours throughout the year, we are able to have the person come in. So I created a spreadsheet that basically shows during slow times that the person would work 15 hours a week. But during busy times during the election, they're going to have to work 35 hours a week in order to help us. So I understand your concern about not having a full-time person year round, but I do think that we're going to go into the first election, the preliminary election, if we have one, making sure that we understand what's going on. And after that election, we can then make a determination. But I understand your concerns
It just doesn't sound too fair, does it? So let's bring in a lesser employee and have them work 10 hours or 15 hours a week. Then all of a sudden, we're going to inundate them when we need them. I just, as a person that's for labor, that doesn't pass a smell test for me. I just think that if someone's going to commit to us, we should commit to them. If we've committed and agreed upon this mayor has signed off and understood that they're now union employees, you have to follow those union rules. So I don't, I understand you, like I said, I understand your position, but at the same time, it doesn't give me the warm and fuzzies that we're going to bring someone in for 12 hours a week. And then when it comes to the most important time, we're going to give them 35 hours. I just don't think that's fair in many different ways. I don't think it's fair to you. So,
Well, and I do understand that. One thing I will add is we do have an advanced team that comes in prior to the election. So for early voting, vote by mail, and sending out all the vote by mail applications, we have about 5 to 6 people who are there to assist us and make sure that everything goes out smoothly. Just to give you that information, but I understand your concerns and I appreciate those.
thank you. So, Madam President, if you could, to the clerk, can we make sure we make that part of the minutes that we ask the, I can't say legal opinion because we don't have a solicitor, but the opinion of our HR director who just started a few weeks ago to make sure that this isn't going to bite us in the keister for another unfair labor lawsuit by hiring a part-time employee in a union position, full-time union position. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Madam Chief of Staff, do you have clarity you can offer to that situation?
Through you, Madam President, to Councilor Scarpelli. Councilor Scarpelli, the Human Resources Director has contacted the union to discuss this matter. So I just want everyone to know that we're having those conversations.
Appreciate it.
Certainly.
Thank you. Go to Vice President Bears.
Thank you, Madam President. Thanks, Melissa, for being here. I'm sorry I didn't get my questions to you sooner.
That's okay.
So my understanding, if I look at the budget, we were way over this year. We were at 380 plus, and
Correct.
It's going down to 340. Which makes me think that there was a lot of work that needed to be done this year. And also my understanding of how this, of course it's under the new election commission, we moved from the registrar of voters, but between the budget being so over for FY23, and this upcoming fiscal year, we're going to have 3 elections, not 2, like we had in the previous fiscal year, between the preliminary, the general, maybe 3, preliminary, general, and the presidential primary. And that back in 2020, prior to this new arrangement, when we had the registrar and the clerk's office, we had 4 FTE staff working on elections, plus the elections coordinator who would come in, for full time for an extensive period of the year. So at least 4.5 FTE, if not a little bit more. This would bring you down to 2.5 FTE. So that's the piece where it's not really fitting in my head, is that you're going from almost 5 people to 2.5 people. The budget was over last year. We're actually going to have more elections this year.
Yeah.
And that makes me really worried. So, if you can explicate a little bit more how you think you're going to be able to do so much more with so much less, that would be helpful.
Yes, so I do know that there were 3 full-time people in the office. And I wasn't here, so this is just what I'm gathering. There were 3 full-time people in the office. The 4th person actually was here during the elections, part-time full-time during the elections, and then was not here on off election times. So that would give you 3.5 full-time, 3.5 employees. And that's just my understanding.
Plus the clerk.
Plus the clerk.
Yeah.
So that being said, yes, we are down people, but I think some of that it's an efficiency thing. I do think that the experience that I bring to the table will help us with efficiency. We're getting stuff ready in advance for the election. We purchased, part of the reason why the budget was so high over this year was we purchased things that we needed in order to meet the Mass General laws. So for instance, when we have vote by mail applications, ballots, we have to keep all of those. So we bought secure boxes, ballot tote boxes, in order to make sure that the election integrity is intact. So those were some of the pre-purchases that we made in anticipation of the fall elections. I do think that, moving Joan Lamoni into a higher position will help because she's very experienced in the elections in Medford. So she offers an experience that I don't have. But I do think that as we move the professionalism forward in the office and we're learning from other people's experiences, we're able to more efficiently respond to things. For instance, poll pads. So we have not used the full capacity of poll pads. In past elections, when we've had people who've had to show IDs for affirmations if they're inactive, we've typed everything in. So you've typed in about 300 plus people. Now that we're using the poll pads, we actually don't have to type all those names in because they're already in the system. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, no, that all is well and good, but the most of the budget that you're over is not in your supplies and ordinary expenses. It's $70,000 of overtime. And so that's just what has me concerned is that, it seems to me, if I look at this, like you already don't have enough staff.
So the line item is incorrect.
Okay.
So the way it's been done in the past, the overtime was for all the part-time election workers and the advanced team.
Okay.
And so that's why it looks like that. The overtime was probably $2,000 for both Joan Lamoni and Haley Brogan.
Okay.
And we work very hard I work very hard to limit the amount of overtime that people are required to work because I think we can get stuff done during the 5-day work week.
Okay. So basically all this overtime money that's in this overtime line is really just should have been in the part-time line always.
Correct.
And is moving there?
When I came in, that's where it was put. So we just continue to do that, but it will be fixed for this budget cycle.
Okay. So really it's just reflecting the halftime loss, the loss of okay. So kind of along those lines, 1 second here. I've seen how you guys, at least in the past, have operated.
Yep.
Generally, there's, I understand the volunteers and the even better volunteers, the advanced team, who have had more experience and some more training.
Yep.
I've also seen that sometimes those folks can make mistakes. They're not here all the time. There have been issues in the past. I know we've had discussions about things that you're changing and working through. But I have seen that, at least in the past, early voting was always staffed. At least as far as I could tell, 90% of the time, a full-time staff member from the elections department was in the room. Are you still going to be able to do that for early voting?
It's not a requirement for us to do that as long as it's similar to the polls. I can't be at all the polling locations on the day of the election. So when we're doing early voting, we have 3 people that are processing early voting. We have someone that's checking in, someone that's giving ballots, and someone that's collecting the ballots at the end. I do come up and check periodically, but it's not a requirement that the elections manager or someone from the elections office is there. If that is a concern, we can ask the commission to help us, and I'm sure that the commissioners would be available to do that.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I hear that's not a requirement and totally respect that answer. But I think I would have concerns with part-time election staff who are not full-time election experts, essentially running an election, you know, and on their own. And I will say this, that the early voting space, you know, you have all the precincts in one place. In some elections, you have different ballots going out to different people. That's where some issues have happened before. So that's why I think that supervision check is really important. So that's why I bring it up.
Oh, please,
Yes.
thank you.
Council, it's a good question. It's a good concern. But one of the things
Henry, if you could just name and address for the record.
one of the things, Henry Moran, you did say it for me.
I did say, yeah, I mean, well, not every, I know everyone knows you, but not everyone on TV and on Zoom, I know.
Election commissioner. Yeah, actually, it's a good concern, but one of the things last time we presented here, we said there will always be issue no matter what.
Sure, yeah.
The thing is to learn from it.
Yeah,
As of right now, I don't think none of you knows exactly the change that we took downstairs.
yeah,
Okay? And when you find out, I know, you'll be amazed. The thing we're having, it's not like you have a full-time on-site there, but you have full-time available. Additionally, we conducted more training. So every time there's an election cycle, we have training.
okay,
So rest assured, we'll keep you,
okay.
we'll be happy.
And just while you're here, Henry, my one other question is, and you maybe can answer the other half of it, Melissa, on this staff reduction, is the commission okay with it? Do they support it?
Right now, the commission is standby that we work with whatever we have. Our job is to make sure we run fair and square election.
Yep.
No matter what, whether we bring all the commissioners to spend a night with us here and not to exclude her, okay, we're gonna have to do it. Right now, the time frame to hire somebody is tight because we will bring that person in. We have to train that person.
Yeah.
If we put that person on a state access database, we'll have to get through, COBRA, all this craziness background before you can have it. So, but one thing for sure, by the time we've either in the middle of, before we get to the general, we might have that person on site.
Yeah.
We may have that person on site working up to the level. By the time we get to 2024 election, which start right after the general in this November, okay, we're going to be full staff. I
Okay.
think we're okay.
And Melissa, the other half of the question to you, does the A team, do your election volunteers, does your staff team in the office know that this is the proposal, and how do they feel about it?
I think that staff recognizes, I think the staff stands behind the commission and behind the administration and myself in the belief that we can do this. And if for some reason we need to have a full-time person, we can make that happen. So I think that's where we're at right now. So the census went out. In past years, the census took until May. We completed the census that came in, and we completed it in March. So we're really moving things forward, making sure that we cover all of our bases. So I think we can do this. And I think the staff also, I think Joan believes that we can do this, and we're just gonna do it.
Okay. One last clarifying, and sorry for taking so much time. When you say if we need a full-time person, we can make that happen, how are we going to make that happen?
In case you haven't noticed, I'm here almost every day like a full.
Well, that's not fair, Henry. That's not fair.
Even when I'm down in my basement, I'm still working the best I can.
Yeah.
So that time I'll come to the office and tell Melissa, you can take the day off. I won't sit on your chair because it's too hot, but I'll sit on a chair and do whatever it takes I can do. So I was blessed to know so much about election that allows me to help them downstairs, which I can do. But one thing for sure, I will guarantee you, okay, we will have a fair and square election.
Yeah.
The preliminary, if there is any, okay, I'm hoping, I'm praying there's none, and the general for sure, and after that, people will be happy. Throughout, in the next few days, okay, when you start picking up your nomination paper, all of you will realize there's a change, something is changing. Okay, we're doing something totally different. What was missing is new now, so we get good people downstairs.
Okay.
A team is no problem. Remember, I'm a former A team.
I know, and that's
myself.
why I wanted to qualify my mention, but
So I'm loaded with knowledge to jump in. I'll go downstairs to Melissa, say, what do you want me to do? What do I do? And sometimes I'll tell her what to do. I say, if I were you, I will do it this way. I will do it. I don't know, working well.
okay, yeah, and I super appreciate that, Henry. You volunteering is not a long-term strategy, so I just want to put that point out there. But I really respect your engagement and your effort and your volunteers and work for the city.
Point of information, Councilor Scarpelli.
Oh, that's a violation of union policy if you have a volunteer doing union work.
So I'm going to defer to HR because HR is dealing with this, and I am not an HR professional.
I'm just telling, I work in a municipality. I appreciate the HR and I'd like to get that on the record too. And as much as I love Henry Miller and what he does for this community, it's not Henry Miller's job to do a job that a paid employee should be doing. No disrespect, Henry, but.
No. I'm sorry, counsel. I think you misunderstood what I said.
Okay.
There are work that volunteer does downstairs. There are work that full-time does downstairs.
Okay.
Depending on your level of security, your level of accessing the database on the state, there are things you can, there's a lot people downstairs won't let me do. Okay, but there's a lot I can do. I can, for instance, sit down and put the election calendar together. Yeah. I can, for instance, during election, I'm the ones walking and overseeing each side. But as far as personal worker for full-time, I won't do that.
I completely understand that and respect you, but at the same time, in the conversation, the question that Council B has asked, with the lack of a secretary, you came up and said that you can do it. You come and help. So I'm just clarifying that. So that leads me to ask.
And I do appreciate it. I do appreciate it. My apology. It came out the wrong way.
All right.
I will never go out there and do, and you know me better than that as a person.
I know.
And I appreciate your willingness to
Thank you,
answer, Henry, and address all the questions.
We appreciate it.
And same
Thanks.
with Manager Ripley. I think at this point, we'll wait
thank
to
you.
get that
Yep, thanks.
official response. I assume Vice President Bears is done,
Done.
so we'll go to Councilor Sang and then Councilor Knight.
Thank you.
You're good? Okay.
I was actually going to make the point that Councilor Scarpelli made as well. I appreciate your enthusiasm, but I mean, even if you're doing things that wouldn't necessarily step on what that full-time position would do, I don't want it to be seen as we're undercutting our union staff. And I think that's, even if we're doing things technically by the book, it's really important that we let our other staff, our union staff, make sure that they don't feel undercut, right? But what I was going to say is, I think I concur with Councilors Scarpelli and Bears about what they're saying about staffing for the department. I totally I respect your candor. I think it's actually very helpful, and we run a tight budget. I think you're painfully aware of that. But there are places where our city can do more, and places where the elections department can do more. And you guys have done amazing work too. I wanted to acknowledge that too. As a council, we've said that we want you guys to work with maybe the DI department and us on creating a report about how do you improve outreach to voters for voter registration, especially with younger groups or immigrant groups, right? And that stuff, I know you guys have a limited bandwidth, and perhaps part of that, 0.5 FTE, right? That's where that person would come in and help you work with the rest of our departments and create that report and do a lot of that outreach. And I think that's all that's the point I really wanted to make was, I think this budget perhaps isn't enough to do what we need for the elections, but we can do more than what's just enough. And I guess my question for you is, what are the voter outreach goals of the next year? How are we going to reach them? And is that sufficient? Can we do more? Are other cities doing more that we can't do with this budget right now?
I think with a limited budget, you can do voter outreach. One thing that we can do is in-house, we can create brochures for both high school and senior center and other citizens. We've already started the process of creating brochures that will let people know when our elections are, let people know the importance of voting, and let people know how to register to vote and what their options are for voting. So we're working on those things. We will be working with the mayor's office and the DEI director just to make sure that we've covered all of our bases with regards to the DEI requirements. I think one of the things that I want to convey is there's a whole clerk world out there that we can use so we don't have to read things. So the brochure that we're working from was created by another clerk in Massachusetts. And so we can make that Medford. Working with other clerks on how to make the election efficient with regards to, early voting, vote by mail. How do we make those processes more efficient so that we are covering all of our bases? So, and I respect the dissatisfaction or the desire for us to have a full-time person. And, we will cover our bases and we'll do our best.
Yeah, actually, voter outreach is a yearly business. You never stop doing it. That was part of I don't need to get paid to do that, especially in the city of Medford. Last year, we were just like Melissa just stated here, after we saw your resolution, we love it. I'm an immigrant just like anybody else, but I'm no longer an immigrant because I'm a citizen just like anybody. So we took the time, and I think like an immigrant, we sit down, we review it, we need to publish it, and we're gonna require everybody's help to help us distribute that. One of the key things we're gonna take advantage of is reverse 911 to see if we can let them know, okay? Because you need to speak on every language. I'm part of the group who put a multi-language during COVID. I speak more than one language. So when there's an issue, there was a polling station that at work. When immigrant comes down, they need help. We're there to help them. And this time we have it better because we have a group of people who speak different languages who will be able to do it. So I think we get this part covered, and thank you for your resolution that pushed us to do more than we were doing.
I appreciate that response. I think to your point, maybe I'm just being idealistic. As you said, it's a year-round thing. And so what I was thinking was maybe the part, half the year when the elections are happening, the clerk works on that, and the other half, they're able to work on something else. But I do respect what you've proposed to us. I think one other note is we all know how difficult it has been to staff the city, just City Hall properly. And perhaps in the election world, it's not a particular problem, but I am worried that perhaps it'd be difficult to staff a position that's really not doing much through most of the year, maybe 10 hours through most of the year. And then when it comes to the election, it's 35. And I just wanted to put that on the record. I know you guys are going to try your best to fill that slot, but all of the departments are trying, and there are tons of vacancies in City Hall. And
Do you have a point of information? Counselor Knight? Apologies, Counselor Singh. Did you?
I'm sorry. I didn't. I was hoping you could repeat the question.
Did you need Counselor Singh to repeat the question?
Yes,
I apologize.
please.
I was talking to Bears.
Which question? The one before or this one?
The one you just asked.
Okay.
Your most recent question.
Oh, the question is, do you anticipate any difficulty hiring for a position where you're saying it's 10 hours a week through most of the year and then it's 35 or so for election time? Because that's quite a regular schedule and we're already facing staff shortages or we can't fill vacancies in different departments.
Very good question. I'm going to throw out Andover. In Andover, they have a part-time person who works September through June and not there in the summers. And she'll work, this particular person would work 11 hours a week or she would work 50 hours a week. It depends on what the need is. So I think if we market the position the right way, we'll get the right person. The other thing is with, again, the clerk world, there's always people that are looking for clerk jobs. And
What information?
when we get the word out there that we're looking for
Counselor Knight,
this, I think.
Thank you, sorry, I apologize. Counselor Knight, point of information.
I believe that there'd be a number of hours that are required in order for a person to qualify for basic health insurance benefits, and that number would be closer to around 20 to 22 hours per week rather than 10. So I don't know who we think we're going to be attracting to any position that's going to be paying them 10 hours a week with no benefit structure. I know that's more of an HR thing, but I think we're really missing the mark on this one. I appreciate your presentation, Melissa, but I just I don't see this as a reality. I see this as a reduction in a position that this council and previous councils have fought for in staffing levels in that office. And now we're seeing a unilateral reduction. And our contingency plan is to use volunteers and to reduce a position to 10 hours a week and make it benefit ineligible. That's something that I can't support, but I appreciate the presentation and thank you.
Thank you, Counselor Knight. Manager Ripley, if you want to resume.
So I think if we market the position the right way, we can find the right person who's looking for that, part-time work. We'll see. I can't guarantee, but we'll do our best to do that. I wanted to go back to your question about voter outreach. We do a lot of voter outreach already. We go to some of the nursing homes to help the nursing home folks vote, make sure that they're registered. We will be at the senior center, and marketing wise, we're going to get a banner that says, hey, here's when the election is, just so that people are aware of what's available to them and when it's available. The other thing that we did do is we updated the website that gives some more information and some more specific information in hopes that that would help residents.
Again, I do appreciate the work that you guys have been doing, and I have seen the updated website, and there's a lot more information on there, which is good. But there's always more we can do. I just wanted to make sure that that's the frame that we're leading with as well, and that I don't want us to end up in the place where we don't have a clerk, a senior clerk, in the fall because we can't manage to hire for that position.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Collins.
Thank you, President Morrell. Thank you so much for being here, for all of your hard work year round, and Marie as well, all the commissioners. I just wanted to sort of add my voice to the choir and saying thank you so much for your hard work. And we know you're doing a lot with the resources that you do have, but, especially reviewing this budget in this election year. We can't view this outside of the context of what we're hearing from other departments all year round, which is, gosh, it's really hard to hire. And, I think especially with the elections department, as much as any department in the city, that really has to be resilient, especially when we're looking at 3 elections in 1 year. It just goes without saying. I think probably this whole budget season, like the records will reflect us trying to pull out from this budget examples of where we do lack that resiliency, long-term examples of where we're doing the best that we can with what we have right now, and we know that it's not what we should be shooting for, what we should be aspiring to, and what would promote the best resident experience, the best voter experience, the best volunteer and staff experience. And so, my hope is that the theme of this budget season will be elucidating like where we should be aspiring to go, and knowing that we're not going to hit the mark this budget season. For the short term, I have to admit, I share my fellow counselors' concerns about having staffing be so lean that if we continue to have trouble hiring, then we're in a really tough spot. And then we're asking of volunteers to step up, and maybe that's above board, and maybe there are questions about that. And I think that it's just hard to look at any department in the city and say, this seems like it's going well for now. And of course, I always appreciate a can-do attitude, but also to have to recognize that things are going well because of conditional circumstances that are short-term, or they're fortunate, or we have some all-star enthusiastic volunteers on our side, but that's not always going to be the case, and we can't be banking on that. And,
Right.
as one counselor, we have to look at the budget and see assurances baked in that we don't have to depend on those conditions, especially when we're talking about elections. So thank you so much. I hope that we
respond to
can.
that?
Sure.
So our advanced team is actually paid. So when they come in, they're not volunteers. So other than the commission, everybody is paid when they come in, unless they're on the senior abatement program, in which case they're paid, but in a different way.
Thank you. Going back to Councilor Carviallo.
I kind of missed Councilor Sands' question when he asked you about the outreach to people. I think the population that the council was mentioning, I don't think they're website savvy. And I think everybody, we have a lot of people in this building that think the world revolves around the internet. It doesn't. A lot of people that don't have access to the internet. They don't know what the internet is. So I think that's where I think we miss our mark there. I think we have to find another way to reach other voters other than our website. So.
One of the things I've done personally, because if you look at it today, in this city, we're celebrating more than the people who were born in Medford. We're celebrating people from Asia, Haitian, Spanish, everybody. So we try to reach out to those people. Personally, I took this concept, I started in Boston, all the way to Washington, to make sure most of the people I, Henry Milloin, represent have no access to the website. So therefore, you have to find another way, as you stated, to reach out to them, whether it's audio or you give them a language that they use as their primary, because we're looking at English as their second language. So we try to do that. And I think when Melissa talked, we didn't say we go to the high school, we go to senior center gathering, public gathering. Soon we're going to have a flea market here. We're going to try to reach out people. We go to the housing and so forth. Are you going to cover all of them? I doubt it. You're going to miss some of them eventually. And we saw that during COVID. As we were moving, we were coming up with new language, more people. But that's something fair, because I always say my mother who died 3 years ago didn't know how to read and write, but she voted. So therefore, every time I think of voting, I think of my mother.
Thank you. And, I was one of the councilors, I think we all fought for this office, and I don't want to take a step backwards on the office now. I think we're really, we've become, on this one, I think we're really being penny foolish. I mean, for $26,000 to let a full-time person go with the hope that we might be able to find somebody. I mean, you talked that, well, we'll market the job, we'll find a 10, 11-hour person, and then we'll ask them to work 50 hours. I just don't think that, I just think we're really being penny foolish on this. And we're also asking people in the office to do more with less. And these are people that haven't gotten a raise in 4.5 years. How much more do you want to push these people before they say, hey, I don't want to work here anymore? So I think that's a big mistake for this small amount of money to cut back on staff when we don't know if we're going to be able to hire staff, because as you see, we've got plenty of positions that have gone unstaffed here. So I'm not going to support anything that doesn't keep this person in the budget. Thank you.
Vice President Bears.
Thank you, Madam President. Just wanted to touch on the outreach piece again, and sorry I was away from my desk at the time. I think great to hear about the outreach that we're doing. Just a couple thoughts, and if you're already doing them, I'd love to hear about how you're already doing them. I know you mentioned reaching out to immigrant communities, and it sounded like we're translating some of the outreach materials into other languages.
Well, there's the VRA, which is Voting Rights Act, okay, dictate what can be or cannot be translated.
For the
based on
ballot.
a percentage
For the ballot.
no, election material.
Oh, really?
Yes.
But we could go beyond. could
Yeah,
we not?
depending on a percentage.
Yeah.
But the thing that we have is regardless of your primary language, we will reach out and work with you. Matter of fact, we are currently working on a presentation to present to you, okay, how we conducting our outreach, the new pamphlet we just created, and how we're gonna try to see the percentage. We have to go with the percentage. I forget what I told you on that section D, right?
It's 15, so it's
15%
15%.
of the total.
Of the registered
total
voters.
voter, yes.
Right. But if it's lower than that percent, could we not voluntarily also translate it?
No, that will be up to basically local ordinance to do that because we're following MGL. We're following the Fed.
It looked like Melissa had an answer to that too.
So all I'm going to say is that the city is not
Required.
Law states that we're not required to translate the ballot if the population is less than 15%.
Right.
And we haven't met that threshold yet. Now, we will look into translation for things, but again, we want to follow the rules of Mass General Law because we don't want to make a mistake.
Yeah. And I guess I'm not so much saying the ballot. I'm more saying like pamphlet. Here's how to register to vote. Here's the election office number. Here's, that kind of thing I think would be really valuable to translate. If we only have English and we're only at the senior center, we're not hitting everybody, and even if we only have English and we're only at the senior center, we're still not hitting everybody, right? There's a huge Haitian Creole population as well, right? People who speak Haitian Creole. So, that's one piece of it. The other piece we've been having, and I've seen them in the Rotunda, successful kind of welcome to Medford events. Is your office at all engaged? And I know you're involved in the committee. Do we have someone there who's saying, here's how you can register to vote in Medford? Here's the form, here's the link. Is that something that we're doing when new people are moving to the city?
If we could get that response from.
That's one of the things we've been
Henry,
doing.
if we could get that response from Manager Ripley, just
Okay.
from the office perspective.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we can.
Yeah.
We have not up to this point. But what you have to remember is being at an event at night doesn't generate a lot of voters. People don't sign up at these events. So last year when they did the police night out,
Yeah.
nobody went to the registration table for voter registration. So we have to be really creative on how we do this, and we have to make sure that we're utilizing our time to the best of our abilities. So I would love feedback on things that you think we could do and what you think would be beneficial. But the neighborhood night out isn't a good use of our time, unfortunately.
That's less what I mean. I was really specifically about when people move to the city. We have these, there's kind of receptions, and I'm sure 98% of new people to the city aren't going to the reception in the rotunda, right?
Right.
But are you also sending out mail to people who move to the city, right? There's like a mailer that's going out?
That
It's
I
not,
don't know the answer to.
it's not a mailing. The welcoming committee receive from a realtor a list of new buyers.
Yeah.
So it's up to us to find out, like for instance, Council Zach bought a house. It's a 3-family house, but Council Zach doesn't
me.
live here.
Not
Doesn't
me.
live here. He doesn't live here. So we gotta find out who lives in that address. So which
You
is
want to
one
give me
of-
a couple $100,000?
yeah, which is one of the things that pushes this year when we sent the census out. You saw what we put
Yeah.
election material in there to tell people to vote, but that's
Yeah.
not enough. That's
Yeah.
still not enough. It will never be enough.
No, exactly.
So it's a consistent thing. That's what, when I started to answer council saying, I said, voter outreach is a year around. It changed. Sometimes you don't have anything. For instance, last year, we went to the high school. We got 43 young people registered. So that was good. Then we went to the police night out. We got nothing.
Yeah.
So we went to the West Medford Community Center. You get nothing because everybody down there are already registered.
Yeah.
So it's a consistent, but I like your idea to say the language. That's one of the things we should try to do here to put when the person comes. And I had that issue with a department head, a lot of people that can read another language doesn't want to be communicated in a language.
Yeah,
They want to speak English to make themselves
sure,
different.
sure,
So there's a lot of issue, but we'll just like the manager said, give us idea that you think it's feasible. We will explore them and make them become reality
Great.
as possible, as much as possible.
thank you, Henry. Thank you, Melissa.
To add to that, we are not required when we have a municipal election to send out the vote by mail applications. We did send those out in our census, and we've received about 5,000 vote by mail applications. They weren't translated, but that's part of our outreach. It's using creative ways to sort of make sure that we're reaching everybody.
Great.
There was a brochure in there that was translated to different languages from the city. It wasn't from any particular department as well. So, we're really trying, and we will continue to do so.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the council at this time? Before we move on, I just want to echo my fellow councilors where I really do feel that that position should be a full-time position, which is not a comment on anybody's work. It's a comment on the state of elections in this country today and how fraught they are and how they're only getting more complicating and challenging and challenged. So to that point, if you can't find someone at that part-time, would then there be a request to make it a full-time position? What's the thought there? If that position is open as we're getting close to election season?
I don't know the answer to that question. I just don't know. I mean, I think we would try.
Madam Chief of Staff, are you able to address that?
Thank you. Yes. Thank you, Madam President. Yes, I mean, look, if we try to begin to say, it's important to find the right person to fit the position, right? And if, traditionally the hiring process begins with the department head, especially for, staff directly involved. The department head is involved in that hiring process in this case, and was evidenced by the hiring process or the that what essentially ended up being the promotion of the senior clerk to the head clerk. The department head is involved in that hiring process, and that has an opportunity to make a recommendation. If ultimately the department head doesn't make a recommendation to hire, we would evaluate alternative options. Of course, if the alternatives were we're just not finding the people, we need to act reasonably quickly on this matter. So in theory, we would consider coming back to the city council. If we were in that position, we felt there was just no one to be hired. And I'm speaking for myself as what it would be my recommendation to the mayor. It would be to come back to the city council, ask for a modified appropriation. If that needed to be appropriated from elsewhere because there was nothing left to raise and appropriate, we would identify an alternative source and attempt to make a modification with the approval of the city council, of course.
Great, thank you. Any other questions from the council? Thank you so much.
Thank
Appreciate
you
it.
very much. Have a nice evening.
As well. So we'll take the two smaller departments, then we'll go to police and PDS and round out the board. So we'll go to veterans, and then we'll do assessor, and then we'll go into the larger departments. So go to veterans, which is page 211. So Veteran Service Department's expenditure summary is $435,703, up $3,372, 0.78% over the prior year. And we have Director of Veteran Services, Jeremy Johns, with us. So if there's any highlights or anything you'd like to share with us, and we'll go to questions.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time, Madam President. So when I took over last June 13th, first started with the Massachusetts Department of Veteran Services, becoming certified with them for the Chapter 115, which is the primary reason for my role. Chapter 115 disbursements for those needy veterans and their dependents. Then I approached the mayor about getting accreditation to be able to touch and deal with Veterans Affairs claims, both pension and disability claims. That is not a normal thing in the state of Massachusetts. The State Department of Veteran Services does not extend that accreditation down to the towns and the cities. Those that you'll see online through the different powers of attorney, like veterans, Vietnam Veterans of America, or American AMVETS, American Legion, they are independent. So they had to do a 40-hour accreditation with the Department of Veterans Affairs so that they could do these claims. So I got approval to do that with the National Association of County Veteran Service Officers. And now I'm able to look into veterans' claims once they change power of attorney and help them out with the disability and pension claims, DIC claims, or dependency indemnity compensation claims, things that they would be, if they were on Chapter 115, which is a state and city benefit, they might have to be switched then over to federal, which is a benefit so that we could help out others at the Chapter 115 level.
Great. Thank you. Councilor Carviallo?
Thank you for working that short period.
In a short period of time, yeah. Have you seen an increase in people coming into the office since you started?
Yes, sir. Especially with the VA claims.
I'm about to show you. That's my dad.
Counselor. Yes, I've seen an uptick, both with Chapter 115 and with the VA claims. I've always made sure that the Medford residents have priority when it comes down to the appointments that I can offer, but I have seen an uptick in activity.
I think I've talked to you about this before. How are you working to bridge that gap? Or that big space between the veterans group from Vietnam, that 20-ish year gap over to the Afghan the Middle East veterans. Are you starting to see the Middle East guys starting to come in, or are they kind of doing it, trying to go in on their own?
I've got an appointment tomorrow with a veteran that just left active duty a couple months ago. I have dealt with a Vietnam veteran that just, because I was able to look through his claim, see where the error was, went through a higher level review, now he's at 100%. Bridging the gap, I would like to say, would be finding a good communication. We used to have a newspaper, and I'm sure that that's where most people got their information for the city. We've got several Facebook pages for the city of Medford, and then people that create their own under the city of Medford guys. So I try to follow some of those and see if we can use that as a push for information. But like the non-service connected pension and the Chapter 115 benefits, those are, a lot of them are elderly. Those that are disabled can't work. They don't have computers. They don't have internet. And so I just discovered the free newspaper that is for Somerville and Medford, potentially advertising in there. I go to the senior center with the pamphlets that I have for the requirements for Chapter 115. I can do a little, maybe more outreach at the emergency rooms at the hospital to kind of put that out. But there's a different, it's hard to say where the majority of Medford residents get their information. If I could find that out.
Are you notified when a veteran moves into the community?
I am through the state.
Okay.
I get a list. And then I send out a letter saying you could be qualified for the welcome back bonus. If the person is 100% service connected, they also get a annuity from the state twice a year. I want to make sure that they stay informed on that. But yes, I also welcome them to Medford with a letter.
Do we do mailings to the veterans that we know live in the city?
Yes, we do.
And their spouses also?
If they're identified through the state, if they're new into the community, other than that, it typically is just the veteran. I don't know the veteran's marital status or who they've moved in with. It's just if a veteran has left active duty or has returned from basic AIT, basic training if they're in the National Guard. That's how I get that information.
It'd be nice when a new veteran moves into the community, if we could send them a welcome letter or some kind of welcome package saying, we're here to help.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And we do that with the letter. I also try to make sure that they understand what services are offered at the office as well and show some of the unique aspects that I can offer them. Yes, sir. Thank you. Councilor.
Going to Vice President Bears and Councilor Scarpelli.
Thank you, Madam President. Thanks, Jeremy. Sorry for cracking up when you said Facebook groups, but the state of public discourse and the level of good information that is out there in the community is wanting. I only have one question for you. Other than that, if unless you want to like found a newspaper, but, that'd be much appreciated. Was there anything that you are looking for that you maybe requested for this year that you weren't able to get, or anything in the future that your office really needs in terms of resources or staffing to do more?
Currently, I'm satisfied with what had been agreed upon. When it comes down to the cash aid that we have, which is $300,000, I'm not able to predict when a qualified veteran comes in and requests to file for Chapter 115, or I'm able to identify them as somebody that could receive that benefit. If the economy were to do a downturn, something like that, we would end up going, currently right now, I think we have 22 recipients on Chapter 115. Looking through the history, we were up to almost 40 at one point in time with COVID. That way, the 300,000, as long as it covers that, then I wouldn't have to ask for funding in the midterm point. But I can't predict when the number would increase if need.
Now, is just for my clarification, it's a fixed benefit amount, so we would run out if, or it's the amount is divided among the beneficiaries equally.
Somewhat like that. So depending on the person that's coming in, if they have out-of-pocket medical expenses, if they're paying for their Medicare Part B, we can reimburse that as long as they meet the asset financial requirement. They of course have to be an honorably discharged veteran or an unmarried dependent spouse. But I have a family that I pay out $1,600 a month right now, and then I have some that are maybe just getting, the one lady was getting $98, so it's variable.
Okay,
depending on their need.
But we're covering it now, but in an economic downturn, there'd be more people who qualify and need it, and
that is correct.
We wouldn't be able to get there.
Correct. Now, the city does not get reimbursed 25% of every dollar that goes out. That does come from the city. 75% is reimbursed from the state of Massachusetts, and we see that when we close the months out.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate your work.
I was able to also, from last year's budget, I did need software as well as the accreditation for the VA claims, and that's where there would have been an increase in expenditure.
Great, thank you.
Councilor Scarpelli.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Mr. Johns. I know this is it's a vital position here in the city. And we know how important you are, so we appreciate all your hard work. Staffing levels, do you find it adequate within your department?
Depending on the day, yes.
Do you have a full-time assistant secretary now or no?
Darlene is part-time, 20 hours a week. And we're pretty busy in the office.
So maybe that might be one of the reasons why we can't go out and secure more vets that need the assistance.
Potentially. I tried to get out, and I have met with several social workers that have brought some people up to my attention. I let them know what is required, what kind of evidence I need, discharge paperwork, and I don't hear back from them. And there's only so much that I can do.
Right. Yeah. Now, do you work very closely with the different departments here in the city that can assist you with that? I mean, I know that Penny does, this with the social work. We have a very, very robust communication department in the mayor's office. Are we using their expertise and trying to find strategies to reach out to Medford veterans and seeing if maybe they can come up with a plan? I think that's their profession. So have we thought of a plan to maybe, work with them?
Yes, we could do that, and will do that. Have continued to do.
I appreciate that. So like I said, I think that you're so valuable, but when you look at veterans, either it's, they're too proud to come to the office, or they're just don't know how to get there, whether they're, an older veteran or a younger veteran. I think it's, very similar situation. So, we're seeing it, we're talking to our friends at the different VFWs and the American Legions, and they're seeing a huge drop in participation, and that's alarming because it's more of a social aspect. So it's kind of frightening that veterans aren't finding relief with their brothers and sisters at a social situation. But, if there's anything that this council can do, to hold any events or look to see if we can promote things, I think we all need to find a way to really boost those numbers. And, I personally think that you having a full-time secretary, because I believe from what I remember in the past Veterans Affairs directors that we've met with, their biggest concern is doing all that paperwork. And the most important person that's got to be out there showing their face and saying, hey, we have this office here, is stuck behind a desk in an office, filling out paperwork that a trained administrative assistant can do for you, a secretary. So I'd really like to see, it's not a lot of money if we're paying a part-time, adding a couple $1,000s to get a full-time position, I think will pay huge dividends in your office. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, Counselor.
Counselor Knight.
How are you?
Good, Counselor. How are you
I'm
doing?
doing great. Thanks for coming tonight. How many veterans have you been able to identify here in the city?
Roughly was 1,700. The state sent out a roster of those that are receiving some sort of benefit from the Department of Veterans Affairs at the federal level, and that was around 700. So there's everything depends on somebody identifying themselves as a veteran, and then me looking at their discharge and seeing if they're qualified for anything. Other than what I was able to find out just online, was the population was estimated at 1,700.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the council? Seeing none. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We will go to assessor on page 117. I believe we have Ted Costigan, Chief Assessor. We haven't met yet, so I'm assuming that's the right guess. Expenditures, $559,637, minus $12,650, or minus 2.21% versus the prior year. If you want to give us an overview, and welcome.
Yeah, good evening, Council. It's a privilege to be here. Our office is responsible for equitably valuing the roughly 17,000 real estate parcels in the city, as well as the little over 1,000 personal property accounts. We're particularly keen on picking up new growth off of our hundreds of millions of dollars in building permits we review every year. As you know, new growth is revenue to the city that's new in the year we find it. The office, is anticipating a levy of around $139.6 million this year, which, as you know, is the majority of our budget. We're doing a good job with our outreach, to veterans and to the elderly, making sure we have fulfilled all the personal exemptions that Medford residents might have. Talking to my colleagues in other communities, the fact that we have 350 people who are low-income elderly, veterans, or blind individuals who are receiving personal exemptions is an exceptional number, even for a city this size. We're continuing to give great customer service with our staff to Medford residents who come in for motor vehicle excise abatements or want to talk about their real estate property in the city. Seeing a strong, industrial core in Medford, a strong apartment class, and residential class is still doing very well from a valuation perspective going into fiscal year 24. Happy to take any of your questions.
Thank you. Councilor Carviallo, the Vice Mayor.
Thank you. And I want to thank you for being here and welcome to Medford. So I got a couple of questions for you. Can you give me some information on the abatements granted and the allowance for the abatement balance that we have for the last few years? You don't have to give it to me tonight, but if you could send it to the council?
Absolutely.
For the year from 20 to 23, that would be greatly appreciated.
Yep.
I see there's a $500,000 allowance for abatements for the overlay reserve. Is that figure too low? Do you feel that's enough money in there?
If I don't miss the mark, it's not too low. I'm hoping to do a good job this year with the valuation that we're doing for fiscal year 24, where, I'm looking at all the income models. My hope is that is a very reasonable number for abatements.
Okay. So in fiscal '23, we were under our levy limit, 131,972 versus the number should be 133,790. Do you have a correct tax rate for us?
Could you repeat that? I'm sorry.
Sorry?
I didn't understand the question. Could you repeat that?
It says, we seem to be under the levy limit. I know we tell people we tax the max, but we really don't. The real levy limit is 133,790. Our levy limit is 131,972 for fiscal '23, right?
Fiscal '23, okay.
So, have you projected a new tax rate yet?
No, I have to have the valuation done to do the tax rate for next year.
Okay, and the pilot agreements we have. For 22, I see a projection of 2.5 million versus 22. There was 3 million point 3. Where is the difference?
I'm going to have to review the pilot expectations. I just talked to the housing director today. They're sending their fiscal year '23 pilot funding over in the next week. I additionally have an MVDC meeting, so we'll be getting the funding from them the week of June 19th. So those are the two largest ones. From a budgetary perspective, I'd have to ask our finance team as to why they lowered the expectation there.
Yeah, Madam President, if we can make that pilot report, that we can get those answers.
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you.
Councilor Scarpelli, Vice President Bears, but he's not there, so.
Welcome, thank you, Madam President. Welcome to Medford, appreciate you taking this position. So very simple question, I'll ask every department, staffing wise, where do you stand, and are you in need, or do you find it or do you find it adequate what you have right now?
Yeah, I have a great staff. We're 4 busy individuals every day. Additionally, we have, a part-time sort of ARPA funded position that's very helpful for our field work.
Okay.
That is a request I made again going into fiscal year '24. It's the last, ARPA year we can have for revenue replacement. That's going to be crucial.
Okay.
And if that goes through, I think we're going to be in really good shape.
All right, so we're hoping in 2025, that might be a full-time position, because it looks like we need it.
That would be
There's a lot of changes in Medford, and I think this is one department that makes us money when we work. So it's very important that we fund these positions. So I
Big time.
appreciate it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Collins, then we'll go to Councilor Bears.
Thank you, President Morrow. Thanks for being here and nice to meet you. Just a super quick question, probably. I just wanted to make sure I was clear on the reduction in ordinary expenses. I see in the highlights, it says ordinary went down by 50%. Looking at the line item breakdown, I don't see anything so drastic. So I was just wondering if one of those is off, or if you did see any dramatic decreases in ordinary expenses.
Yeah, I think that was a typo. The ordinary expenses down 2.2% year over year.
So no drastic.
I'm sorry,
changes
total
in-
expenses down 2%, ordinary 11%. So it's not a 50% reduction.
Thank you.
Vice President Bears.
Thank you, Madam President. Welcome.
Thank you.
Good to meet you. I don't have huge questions about your budget. My main question about the budget is just, is there anything that you were looking for or will be looking for in the future that's not being funded?
I think, as we're going into the new economy, AI is a big part of this, and it's in the news, buzzwords, but obviously from a valuation perspective, there's going to be tools that might come on, might be innovative, that would really help us in, that growth number. That's what I'm kind of aiming towards. I'm at a $2.5 million figure, and that's with the review of, 1,000 building permits. So any AI that can have me do that faster, whether it's detection technology or whatever else, that would be an area that I could see in future years.
You just won an award for the first person to mention AI in my 4 budgets. So
it's in the
news. My 2 questions. One, exemptions. We've had a lot of conversations with past folks in your office about residential exemption, about maxing out senior exemption, et cetera. Just kind of a general thought from you. if we were to consider it, how do you think that would affect the way that you operate in your office or the way that we raise the levy? Do you have concerns off the bat, or do you think it's really more of a policy call that we might implement effectively?
Yeah, I have a few thoughts. Prior to this, I was the assessor in Chelsea. They have the residential exemption, very familiar with it. The administrative burden it has on the office is quite high. In year one, we'd have to take about 8,000 applications in the city of Medford, and all of those have to be, attached with that is their state income tax return, so I can prove that they actually live in their Medford address and they're filing taxes from here.
Yeah.
So it is a huge data security question with that. To process 8,000 applications, we would need another staff member or two.
Yeah.
In addition, from a pure policy perspective, what it does is it shifts the burden within the residential class.
Right.
So you have longtime Medford residents who own 2 and 3 families who would see an increase in their taxation. A lot of those are low-income elderly. We see them when they're filing for their personal exemptions. So it does benefit the condo owner generally. That it kind of shifts the burden from the 3 families and the 2 families, or to the 3 families and the 2 families, to the, from the condo owner. So the condo owner ends up paying less in taxes.
And the single families under the break even.
Yeah, and then you have to have the effects on your larger residential class. So like your larger apartment buildings, or even your moderately sized apartment buildings, that will see a significant tax increase.
But is it generally fair to say you're shifting the burden from lower valuation residential properties to higher valuation residential properties?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I appreciate the quick analysis. We're, not asking you to do it next week, obviously, but I think the reason I ask is it's been brought up as a potential way to mitigate the impacts of a potential 2.5 override or a debt exclusion. And it looks like we're headed down at least one of those roads, maybe both in some way. So,
well, it's not going to bring any more revenue into the city.
Right. No, I'm saying to mitigate the impact, to say, so if you have a 2.5 override and a debt exclusion, could you pair that and institute a residential at the same time? And then maybe you're low, if you're in a residential unit below the break-even point and you're a low-income elderly, maybe you don't see this big increase from the debt exclusion. Maybe you actually are evening out or at least reducing the increase that's coming from that. So kind of, I know our tools are limited. State law lets us do not much, but that's kind of the one thing that seems to be in our back pocket that could potentially be a way to do that. Obviously, it's not universal because there are, people who are house rich and income poor who are above the break-even point for whatever reason, because their residential property is such a high value.
Right.
Yeah. So we don't have to get in the weeds on it. I just kind of wanted to get your feel on it.
Great.
Second piece is, and I've asked this to Ellen in the past, and she's given me a fair answer, but I'm going to ask you, maybe you can get it even shorter. There are people in the city who say assessments are not fair. My house is not assessed at my full and fair cash value, or, some people are bearing the burden of higher assessments every year while other people are going, like, their assessments aren't going up. If a resident came to you and said, that house is staying at 400,000 assessed, but my house keeps going up, X, Y, Z, my taxes are going up more than 2.5% per year. And obviously that's not how Prop 2.5 works, but it's how people think it works. Right. What would you say to someone who says that the way that the city's assessing properties is unfair to certain people?
Yeah. So first I would say, can we do a site visit? Because we want to make sure we have all the data correct on their property record card. So the valuation is just really from what the data we have on their property is. It's directly from that. So if we have the square footage wrong, or the flooring wrong, or if they have a finished basement or not, that's going to all affect the value of their property. On a more macro level, that's on us to make sure we have fair and equitable valuation of property. People don't understand a lot of times that it trails. So it's, the lien dates from the last January 1st. Right. So it trails up to 18 months. And our assessment to sales ratios are usually around 0.93. So, it's a lot of factors that go into why the valuation that we have might not be exactly what they think is an appraisal value.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not even the appraisal value piece, because that makes sense. It's my understanding of it is essentially you go around every 5 years, you reevaluate every property, and then in the interim years, and if I get it wrong, correct me immediately.
State law is 10 years. We do try to do, a little more often than that, but yeah, it's by state law every 10 years.
And then in the interim, it's basically based on the conditions that we have on your property card, where you're going to using the sales prices of similar properties to adjust your value.
Yeah, it's a modified cost approach, so we are using those sales to inform our cost approach. Yep.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay. And so if someone had concerns about that, they could obviously call your office and you'd be able to talk them through it, but they could also reach out and say, please come take a look. I don't know that you have the right information. And
yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great. Because it's just something you hear that, I guess, and if you can't answer this, I understand if you have to go back for information, or if you feel like it's maybe too broad a question and you maybe haven't been here long enough to have the answer. Would you say that there's any properties that are having their assessments assessed, that their assessed values are low on purpose and they're being kept artificially low?
Not that I've experienced, no.
Okay.
That would be unethical.
Right. It would certainly be unethical.
Yeah.
And, people basically, you see what people say. We were just talking about Facebook. People online are saying, some people have this kind of constant rap that the city is purposefully raising certain assessments and not raising others. And from my experience with Ellen and everyone else in the assessing office, that seems completely untrue. But having a new pair of eyes come in and also be able to say exactly the same thing that we've been saying for a long time is helpful. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Counselor Sang.
Thank you. Thank you so much and welcome. Is this the first time you've been, you're at the podium?
Yes, absolutely.
Welcome to the city council.
Thank you.
So Councilor Collins' question about the typo did make me curious about one of the line items under ordinary expenses for the professional services other. There seems to be a decently big cut of about 35%. I was just wondering if you could speak to maybe what that was this year and if there's anything being cut or if that was a one-time expense that we're not doing.
Yeah, there are two things in this year that we won't be funding this way next year. One of those, just a personal property audit that we were able to do this year and is ongoing right now. And the other one is just funding for field work through that ARPA revenue replacement fund. That'll be helpful and defray some of the costs from that line item.
Any other questions from the counselors at this time? I have one specific question.
Yep.
So we had, the senior tax deferral 41A. I think I emailed, who I believe is the assistant assessor before you came on, just the information isn't accurate. We had voted on the council to tie that upper limit to the senior circuit breaker amount. I'll just send you the email I sent him. It just needs to be updated. I mean, we shouldn't have any more updates to send you because unless we change it to lower, but that's been tied, but that's just been an issue in the past of us kind of passing an update to that and then making sure the accurate information is actually reflected on the one sheet that's on the website. So I'll just send you that.
On that point, just a policy point, we are at 5% on that. So might be a point of consideration for the council. Boston's at 1%, other communities are lower.
Do you have any recommendations?
I think that if the goal is to, help individuals stay in their homes, I think one area that I think about them not doing it is probably the interest rate being, right now, is it high? No, but 2 years ago, it would have been. So
are you able to forecast out or give some examples of just kind of like the cost to the city based on what percent interest rate?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it would depend on the tax bill, but yeah, it would, if it's a condo or if it's a 3-family, but yeah, okay. I mean, we could definitely look at it.
Yeah, and no rush on that, but yeah, if it's something that we want to just consider future, I'm sure the information would be valuable. So I appreciate that.
Yep.
Vice President Paris.
2.
Sorry. Thank you. Okay, I'll send you that email. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you for being here.
Say it again. Okay.
Having fun. Thank you. All right, we will go to police unless I think we've got the smaller. Yep. Do you want to do executive and law or? All right. He's already walking over. All right. He said he'd happily be here till 1 or something like that. So.
I said I'd be very quick this year. Everyone calls the police.
All right.
All the paperwork I have to pull up.
All right, we will go to page 134. So we obviously have Chief Buckley here, and let me find the expenditures page. The expenditure summary is $14,670,614, up $45,527, or 0.31% versus the prior year. Counselor Scarp, or you're just turning your page? Okay. I know we have a pretty extensive highlight in here, but if you want to share anything, and then we'll go to questions.
Yes, I never passed the opportunity to make a comment on the police department, and especially the budget. But I want to start by thanking you for allowing me to come, speak about the department, speak on the budget. So fiscal 23 was, again, another busy year for the Medford Police Department. We continue to increase our calls for service. I believe they were up 2, maybe 3% last year. About 9% of all our calls for service are 911 emergency calls, hitting those buttons, and that's pretty significant for a city this size. Despite our efforts, the past year has seen an increase in crime, and I think if you pay attention to the news and the way the society has been going, it won't be a surprise to you if I told you that a lot of those were both related to vandalism and assault-based crimes, all right? So domestic violence, unfortunately, we believe at this time has risen 5% in the last year. And of course, it's made the news, but we've had 3 homicides in the city. When you report this stuff, I'm very confident to sit here before you and tell you that we have a very safe city, and in large part because of the work of the women and men of our police department. The police department, a lot is asked of us. A lot of asked of us every single year, and there's a lot of changes that are produced or pushed upon the police department. And I'm happy to say that we continue to be productive and responsible parts of this community. And we serviced probably close to 40,000 calls last year when running through these police departments. So while we continue to see these increasing calls, we do, of course, continue to see an increase in calls that are related to mental health crisis and behavioral crisis. I'm happy to report that we still maintain a behavioral support unit. We have 3 full-time clinicians, even though one of them is out on a medical leave right now. 3 full-time clinicians assigned and working to a police department in the city it's not comparable anywhere around here, outside of Boston when they developed their plan. So we are well ahead of the game when it comes to those things. One of the major changes in that unit is we're running the clinicians in a co-response program, which means that when the police officers are out there in the day, we have a clinician in the police car with them. So they'll be first on scene, first to make some evaluations. And a lot of times we know we're walking into a behavioral crisis issue or a mental health crisis issue, and the first contact is with that clinician rather than a police officer in a lot of those times. So we're having great success when it comes to that, and we're going to continue to kind of push in that direction. I never miss the opportunity to thank, as I started to say, the men and women of our police department. And that includes the uniformed personnel, the public safety dispatchers, and the civilian teams. Each year more is asked of us, and they respond in very impressive ways. I can easily stand here and say that our police department is among the very best in the state of Massachusetts. I'm confident in that statement. I know a lot of times I have to stand up here and represent them, but I think they represent us every single day in very, very positive ways, especially doing a tough job. The job of police officers and public safety dispatchers, it's critical to the security and the safety each of us feel in this community. And, they're positive contributors. They're not just employees. I don't look at them. They're positive contributors to our city, and they help create that reputation that Medford has. That being said, we continue to evaluate how we are going both as an organization and a community partnership. And to that end, I'm happy to report that last year, it was already talked about, we had the National Night Out. It was one of the largest community events the police department has put on. I always want to sit here and tell you that it wasn't the administration of the police department that put that on. That was the police officers themselves, right? So I've tasked the police officers over the last couple of years to don't be driven by the chief of police saying, get involved with the community, get involved with the community yourselves, and I'll support those endeavors. And National Night Out last August was one of the best events that we have run in my career. And the success of that has led to the police department, those same community engagement officers applied for a grant with the Cummins Grant, and we were just recently awarded $100,000 over 3 years to continue community engagement through the Cummins Foundation. I can't be any happier for my police officers. It was driven by them, and I can't be any more grateful for the Cummins group for supporting our endeavor of community engagement. You know, I said it before, it's not just police officers. I do want to thank all of my civilian employees. Public safety dispatchers continue to evolve and continue to do a great job under stressful conditions and increasing call amounts. I will always never pass up the opportunity to thank my secretary, Alva, going on 64 years now, working as an employee of the police department. Linda Colazzo, who is always here and keeping me in line when it comes to, my budget numbers. And, I mean, she follows me here just to make sure I don't say anything that gets me in trouble. And finally to Diane Riley. And Diane is worked in the records office, and today was her very last day, and she's retired. So I just want to thank her for all her years of service. She's very important to me in running this police department, and I thank her wholeheartedly for everything that she has done for us. So I hope you're watching, Diane, because we'll meet up with her later on. We have a lot of partners in the police department. We do not do this alone, so I clearly want to thank the mayor and her office for her support. It's not easy to run a police department, and the support you receive from the team in the city of Medford is invaluable. We work closely with the fire department. They're great partners for us. Armstrong Ambulance, even though private entity is very good for us, but I have traffic supervisors every day working hard to get out there. And last but not least, the DPW, and especially Mike Wenzel's team, right? He keeps my cruisers and my maintenance in line, and we're not for wanting when it comes to that sort of thing. So, what you to expect to see in this next fiscal year, by mid-June, we will finally be out with our body-worn cameras in the public. We're very close with that final policy. I think my last meeting with the union will be this coming week. The policy will be finalized on the police end. There will be, it will be presented to the mayor. We'll be reviewing that policy with the mayor, and then I'll present to the council and go over that sort of policy. And then there'll be some public outreach that goes with that, right? So we don't want to just start showing up. And I know it's new for us and it's going to be new for the public, but it will be valuable and important for this community to take that next step into body-worn cameras, and we are close. Just seeing if I had anything else I wanted to add as far as the policy. So I think that's it for sort of highlights. I mean, it's been a busy year for us, but I'm open and willing to listen to any questions and answer.
Thank you, Chief. Go to Councilor Scarpelli.
Thank you, Madam President. Chief, again, year after year during the toughest times, you've always, you and your offices have always stood above it all. So I appreciate your professionalism and your commitment to Medford, my friend. I think that we are very fortunate to have you as our chief and have the staff that you do have.
Appreciate it.
The focus on mental health, that was one of my questions, but it's evident what you're doing. You listen to some concerns that I wish the rest of the nation listened to. And Medford's way ahead of the curve when, your offices are prepared with a mental health professional. I think that's amazing. I think it's so important. I think that we went through a very difficult time back in December and before with a couple of very, very dangerous issues at Medford High School. And there's been a lot of talk, both nationally and locally, about the importance of student resource officers in the building, whether it's with the uniforms or in street clothes. I think that when you talk to the kids, forget about what party you belong to, forget about the talk shows, forget about who's fighting for what kind of leverage one group wants the other. When you talk to the kids, and that's what I do, that's my life. When I talk to the kids feel safe. when there's a police officer in the building. I think that there's a huge disconnect with communities that don't allow that partnership to occur. It's direct, you see direct negative issues in your community when that happens. And I think that neighboring communities are doing that, and I think it's sad. I think that we're very fortunate that you stand strong in what your beliefs are, and you share that with the council and the city, and appreciate, your team for doing that. I think it's important. And I think we need to continue that. I think that, especially when you have newer people coming to the city, especially moving in from more urban communities, their outlook and their view of police officers are totally different, unfortunately. But when you see a Medford police officer, and when you have officers initiating National Night Out, because in other communities, that's initiated by different groups that want to come in and, share their story. But here in Medford, our police, like you said, our staff, our patrolmen really stepped up. Our lieutenants, our captains, our sergeants said, let's do this. And you could see the impact if you just drive by the event, let alone walk around the event. And you just hear people. You even see the most negative police proponents that they're even looking at situations like this, and you have to applaud it. And I think that, for one, I appreciate the police department and what you do. It's not, especially in a time when it could be very volatile, you personally and your staff, your team have been very understanding of what the national trends are and the concerns that we hear, and you're in front of it. And that's what I really appreciate with you, Chief. But when it comes to the budget, I think there are some things that, Somerville, Malden, Everett, neighboring communities do a program, and I do it with partnership with our PD, Somerville Recreation. I think it's an amazing program, and I want to volunteer and work with Kevin and hopefully try to bring the Junior Police Academy here in Medford like we do in the neighboring communities. I think it's such an amazing program where you could tap into principals and talk to them about middle schoolers at risk and needing that support, especially with child care, but using it with the people that might be on the gang spectrums and bringing them in. And then you realize when that police officer takes off that uniform and they're wearing shorts and a t-shirt, they're just like them. And then when they put that jersey back on, they put that badge back on, they realize they're the same people. And that's a difference that we've seen in our community and in neighboring communities. When you have 50 kids for a 2-week period, 50 different kids each week, you really see the effect and how it just trickles up, where it's one kid in a group or a gang that has a different outlook on what a police officer is and how important they are to them as their benefit. I think it's invaluable. So that's something I'd like to talk to you later on. I know the summer's too short, but it's too late, but maybe even working on something. It's not a very big budget ask. All it is, we do with Somerville PD is we have a list of officers that are comp sometime, and they'll donate half and they'll comp half. And, the deputy chief there and the chief of police, they're all in, and I'm sure you would be too. So I'm going to be bothering you with that down the line because I think it is an important piece. My two biggest things that I see that's scary in the budget, and we've been here a while, but when you look at patrolmen and women, that we're down to, it looks like 73. And that's not saying that we have 73 on the street, because I know we have, different situations when it comes to injury or when it comes to, paternity and maternity leave. So I know that's not a true number. How far under are we with our staffing?
So first off, thank you for the comments and the positive, and we will continue to kind of work through that with that community outreach. I will tell you, sneak preview, there is a group already talking about, whether it's a junior officer camp or a summer camp for
That's
to kind
great.
of coordinate with all these things and jump in there. Lastly, it's no surprise when it comes to that, but I am a proponent of school resource officers. I think they're invaluable. I think it's important for the students to interact with, and we have a great team up there.
You do have a great
And we
team.
do. And so I thank them. for their work, and we'll continue to kind of push and show that we can do the right things up there, and we know when to get involved, and we know when not to get involved in the development. As for staffing, we're budgeted this year at 102. It's level from last year. And currently, we're 94 police officers staffing. Happy to report that by July, we'll be putting 6 more in the police academy. That's me knocking on wood, right? So we're getting back up there. There'll be a new civil service police list released in July. And I say that because it's important because, we're really draining ourselves through these civil service lists. We don't get as many people signing up through the civil service process to take the list. And then when we go through it, the quality is, not what we need. And at this point in time, and probably for the rest of my career, I really refuse to lower the standards because the job is just too tough. So last year, I think we tried to hire 16. We were able to get 9, 10. This year, we're looking at 6. I'm hoping we can keep that because it's very tight. You have a short window of time to get a lot of things done to hire qualified and competent police officers, but we have significant failure rates when it comes to things like physical fitness and everything. And so we have you get some really good candidates, and next thing you know, they can't pass the entrance test to the academies, and we're losing. So, if we get these 6 to the academy, we're looking, really strong up to our 102. I hope to push and get more right up to the July, but it's not so much even the budget right now. It's just trying to find the candidates and the qualified candidates to get onto this job. And that's sad. Yeah, it's a sign of the time. But, we can't just lower our standards because then it'll just.
I don't disagree. I see some communities that are doing that, and it's not looking good. So the other piece that I have, Chief, thank you for answering that, but it's, our cruisers. I know that people don't realize that, not like your own personal automobile, our cruisers run 24/7.
Yes.
And so even if it says 2018, it's really double that or triple that because of what the use. So how do we stand with our fleet?
So it's looking really strong right now. I mean, we have, and the reason for that is the influx of cruisers that are coming in. There's been some delays, but we expect to have 3 hybrid police cruisers end of June, and then Mike Wenzel's probably cringing right now because I'm putting Alexa thing, and then 3 more hybrid cruisers by the end of July. So that's a total of 6.
Okay, good.
Plus, the casino grant has provided us with a pickup truck for a traffic unit, and that should be coming in somewhere around the same time.
Okay.
So it's an increase of 7 vehicles to the fleet, and this summer, in the next couple of months. And then, we've been working closely with the administration on the capital improvement side of things to kind of ensure that the future is bright and we get some sort of regular production of vehicles to the fleet. And we are moving on a hybrid and everybody is. And we've seen those vehicles, we've tested them, and we're very, happy and confident that all that will work. Move away from the pure gas models.
We've gone a long way from holes in the floor of most of our patrol cars and, looking at two a year. So this is a great news in my eyes. And again, I appreciate all your hard work.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, President Morrell.
I'm glad you're next because I feel like I'm always looking over here.
Well, now's your chance. Well, thank you for being here. Always good to see you. Pretty much just one question for you about grant funding sources not included in this budget. I heard you mention the casino grant for the pickup truck. I had heard over the weekend about the Cummings grant for community engagement, which is nice to hear. Are there any other major sources of grant funding that are augmenting your budget?
So there's a MRS grant that we work on. It's traffic safety. We were the recipient of that public safety grant. And that is, every month, this Commonwealth of Massachusetts comes out with, like, say, a seatbelt campaign or an no texting campaign or speeding campaign. And they were able to provide extra resources for traffic to get out there and kind of, a large part of that program is educational and getting out there and trying to, probably not a surprise to many of you, but the roads are a little crazy these days, right? And I do think that is one thing I can positively tell you came from the pandemic. There were very few people on the road, and people decided to kind of let's pick up the speed and let's try it. But unfortunately, traffic fatalities are up around the areas, and we had one again this weekend. And so I think it's valuable to have those sort of educational traffic grants out there. And so the Commonwealth was happy enough to award us with that program. And of course, a lot of, we get a state 911 grant that allows us to do a lot of things internally with 911 and communications. And there's a lot of training that goes with that we're able to supplement when it comes to that. So off the top of my head, I think I don't think I'm missing one.
Sorry, I didn't catch
I don't
that
think
part.
I'm missing another grant. I was just trying to think if there was another one that I missed.
Great, thank you. So I heard MRS State 911 grant. Is that what you said?
Yep, and then the Cummings grant is now available. That will be kicking in for us, and I mean we're getting there, right? We're trying to work on more grants to kind of help fund the police department to supplement it, but they're not always easy to get. So
Yeah, I know that's true. Thank you very much.
thanks.
Vice President Bears.
Thank you, Madam President. Thanks, Chief. Appreciate the intentional approach around the body camera policy, body worn camera policy, and generally intentional approaches on many things from you and your team. First question I have just is around data in general. You've been doing this annual data report. When can we expect to see that?
I wanted it for tonight. It's almost done. I knew someone was going to do it. I lead with that as like kind of, it is almost done. We had,
Cool. We started early.
Yeah, you started early, and I usually do produce it, but I'm confident we're probably going to see it next week. But if there's a glitch in some of the printing, it might be shortly thereafter. But that will be out. Yes.
Great. Pretty much all my questions are on the same lines. My fellow councilors have talked about the budget and whatnot. In terms of, the uptick in crime last year, it's still safe to say that crime is significantly down over the last 20, 30 years.
I can tell you that we are a safe community, and I say that based on that, crime is down. And there's a lot of reasons for that, and it is certainly a good thing, but be ever vigilant.
No, for sure. I just want to, we look at the 1 year and we always see what's happening right now. It's important to think about, at least in this context, I think it's important to think about.
Yes.
We're much better off than we were 30 years ago today in terms of certain metrics. And that's one of them. I think we should be proud of.
Yes, I think, and that is a full partnership. I mean, we do a lot of outreach in this community. I mean, every department that you brought up, you talked about outreach, and a lot of that kind of impacts it, community interest. So I do think it makes for a better community, and it's not always just the police. It's about how the community treats each other and looks at each other. And I think that's a large part of it.
Yeah, exactly. And that's really, for me, at least, some cases there's just horrible things that happen that you can't do, but some things it's desperation or not getting the care and treatment you need or whatever else it might be. And I think that's where that community piece comes in, is how can we make sure no one gets to that point, right? Where then it's something horrible is happening. And I think that's something with the behavioral work and some of the other programs that you're working on. That's a priority, it seems.
And when we talk about that behavioral and the clinical support teams we have, that sole intent of that unit, it comes from a Massachusetts, another grant, I know I forgot one, but it comes from a Massachusetts grant from the Department of Mental Health, where we were funded several years ago, and that is a jail diversion grant. Right? And I mean, that's what the intent is, right? There are people who have substance use disorder or desperation, and they commit crimes. It's not always jail or the courts that need to be to resolve those issues. And we always have that option, but we have other options now that we can kind of look at. It's about, paying attention to, recidivism rates and the needs and what would prevent those sort of crimes from happening. And so we work a lot closely with the district attorney's office on that. But, when you get agencies like the State Department of Mental Health reaching out and giving you grants to kind of work with that, you're moving in some right direction. So
great. Two more questions. Just you mentioned this 40,000 call number a year. What does that work out to for each patrol officer every day? If that's in the data report and it's not done yet.
I don't even know if it's in that report. I mean, of course.
I want to bite size it, 40,000 a year, but what's a normal day?
So I was pretty good at math. It's a lot, and our reports are up significantly, right? That kind of follow with us, and a lot of follow-up support reports also, I guess maybe we could kind of look at that and see what those sort of rates, you divide 100 by 40 1,000, or it's not that easy of a math because it's, you have a certain group of patrol officers who
Yeah.
are there all the time, and not every one of my staff is out on active patrol, and
Right.
they are the ones who are responding to those 40,000.
Right. And that's why, it may be easy for me to say, oh, we have this 40,000, we have this 73.
Yep.
But there's probably more nuance to it. And that's why I was
Yeah,
wondering.
and
So,
there's a nuance. And of course, some calls are really easy and some calls take a long time. So, I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
it's, but, we get it done. 25 years ago when I came in this job, it was from day one, there was changes and moving, and you just had to kind of keep getting the work done, and we do it. And that's why I really, I know I wear the uniform, and I know I'm kind of biased and partial towards police, but this police department, they do a lot of really hard work, and they don't, they just keep plugging away. Think about trying to go to work every night at midnight, and
Yeah.
nights and weekends, and hey, it's hard, and I understand it. It gets some of the police officers down, and I got to work overnight again, or I got to work, this weekend, and I wanted to be off with my family, but it's a calling that we chose. It's a job that we chose because the communities need it, right? Like Christmas night, we got to be out there, and we know that, and so that weight gets distributed, and that's why I hold all these guys, even when they complain about it. I hold them because I get it, and I did it one time. It was tough. I'm telling you, when you're sitting there, and I'm probably going down a different direction, but when you're sitting there in a cruiser and it's 3:00 in the morning on Christmas morning, and you're praying your two little girls, stay asleep before Santa Claus comes. So you got to get your butt home, right? And that's tough. And those are the little things that people don't think about for police officers when they're out there, and it can be quiet. But I go back. They chose this career, and they chose it for a reason, right? So it's an altruistic type mentality that people who are chosen for this career go out and kind of, they look to help all the time. Doesn't mean we're not going to make mistakes, but we're there to help all the time. We're there to kind of partake in that. And then when calls for service go up, it's part of the job, and they do it.
Gotcha. Last question is, it's another data question. So if you want to defer to the report on any of it, I understand. But just like day to day, we've talked about, and I'm, likely going to be asking this on all the big departments. You're just coming first, so you haven't heard me ask it yet tonight. But
okay.
Tim's probably going to get it. Chief Freeds is probably going to get it. So you're just the first big team in line.
All right.
What are like some key metrics that you use to, assess how effective or successful your department is, and if you want to pick like one you look at, on a daily basis, if I see X looks good today, I feel good today. And then maybe on that larger annual basis, if I see this number, I feel like we did a good job. Just wondering if you have some thoughts on that.
That is a good question. It's an interesting question, and it will be one I come back to you further for, because I don't, off the top of the head, I go in, I'll read all the police reports, right? And
yeah,
some days it's busy, and some days it's less busy, and there's a sense I can get from reading the reports on like, okay, it's getting busy, it's around the holiday season, right? Or it's in we say after Thanksgiving, it's going to get really busy with a certain amount of crimes. And when I see them, I expect to see them and sort of thing. And you're like, okay, this is normal. But it's when you see things that you don't expect. And I know that's a vague type of answer, but the other part of it is, the metrics I get are probably a little bit less when somebody responds to social media and says, hey, listen, thanks for doing this. I get emails all the time, I bumped, officer so-and-so helped me out and did this. And I get a lot of that, and that gives me the metrics. And I do compare that with, compliance, citizen compliance. All being said, no matter what we do, I don't think we're ever going to rid ourselves of traffic complaints, right? And because we sit in a very unique position. But I know that didn't answer fully, but I like that question, and I'm going to go think about it further. We'll have another further conversation on that. But it's hard to tell.
Yeah.
There's a large part. It's what you hear from the outside. It's what you see in the inside reading. It's how you're reading on the officers' faces, right?
Yeah.
And how you're doing and how things are moving. And, I got a good command staff, and they update me on how things are going also, because I can't be there 24/7 as much as I feel like I am sometimes, but it's, there's a large part of that, but it's not easy. It's not really easy to say, okay, I'm seeing this, so I know things are going well.
Right.
It's all of it combined.
Right. No, and that's the reason I'm asking, especially on these big buckets for one of the things we're looking at is an ordinance to say, how can we actually assess what our needs are in each department? And I think one of those things that's going to have to eventually go and inform that is, measuring success. If we have needs, what are we trying to fix with those needs or improve with those needs? And so I'm trying to get a handle and a feel on from the folks, and I'm sure you have thoughts. I'm sure people in your department have thoughts, and, maybe in the future we could hear some of that and report back too, but, up to you.
It's a valuable question. It's something we should be sort of looking at.
Yeah.
But I don't know that the answer will be that easy. And
right.
As a police professional, I kind of really like the question. I'll be thinking about that one for a little while.
Right.
And it's not that we don't ask ourselves as command staff every day, like, hey, what are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? But how do you put that?
How do you measure it? Exactly.
In a metric that you can measure it and then go
exactly.
forward. So.
And that's really the question I'm trying to get at is, you probably have a really good intuitive feel for it, having been doing something for a long time.
Yep.
What's a number that maybe reflects your intuition? And that's not an easy question to answer.
No.
So
Yep.
Understood. Last question, just a little bit about the Traffic Commission. I know Councilor Collins asked about that. I don't know that I'm going to win any popularity points for what I'm about to say. Sometimes, certainly not from Councilor Knight, sometimes there are, traffic design interventions that the city wants to do that they feel will make situations on our streets significantly safer and to avoid injuries and fatalities. I'm really super disappointed to hear that there was a traffic fatality this weekend. I hadn't heard that yet. And it's a really personal issue for me.
Yep.
And sometimes you get people who, are against those safety interventions for reasons of personal convenience or sometimes commercial convenience. And sometimes the Traffic Commission adjusts plans to prioritize convenience over the absolute best idea of safety, at least based on the design plans that are presented to the Traffic Commission. If you don't accept that characterization, I understand, but that's how I interpret it sometimes. And I understand it's a difficult job. I know you're balancing interests, and I know pretty well what that looks like sometimes, and we've been in rooms doing it together sometimes. What can we do to make the Traffic Commission? What can we do to try to prioritize leaning in that direction of safety more? Or is there anything, I don't know exactly what I'm asking, but I think you get where I'm going with it. How can we make sure that most of the time we're leaning in that direction of making the streets and roads safer by design changes rather than necessarily prioritizing convenience of certain private individuals on the streets?
Yep. So I think I have a clear message of what you're trying to send. And I will say that, the Traffic Commission is a regulatory body, right? And so we don't design streets. We don't design plans for streets. It's, as a police chief, I'm not a traffic engineer, and I don't have that expertise, and nor do the other members who sit upon that Traffic Commission. We rely heavily on our traffic engineering. Director Blake does an outstanding job. And, over the years, we've there are things that have demanded upon us of the Traffic Commission where Director Blake will say, no, this is a safety issue. We can't do X, Y, Z, or we can't do everything. And I think it's probably about a 99.9% time that we abide by what the engineer tells us, because it is a matter of safety. The Traffic Commission is an offshoot of the police department. It is about public safety. One of the things that goes hand in hand, though, sometimes is when, if you push for a public safety initiative and it will take away, the direct issue and the direct comment is like vast amount of parking, right? It becomes a struggle for a regulatory body to sit there and say, by design, we want to take away 50 parking spots. It doesn't mean you don't support the safety initiative, but how do you do that in 1 week? How do you just tell people you don't have any place to park? And that becomes, it's just such a tough, it's a conundrum that nobody really has a solution to, right? Because we have excessive amounts of vehicles registered to the city of Medford and not enough parking. We continue to see development that comes into the city without requirements for them to provide parking for them. And digging yourself into a hole as a Traffic Commission, right? Because if you make a decision, we made decisions that we think are safe based on the engineers. It wasn't what everybody wanted, and I understand that. I think it was a valuable compromise because in the engineer side, they supported it too, and that's good enough for me.
Point of clarification, Madam President. Someone fill me in on what we're talking about here?
I'm not talking about a specific proposal. I think you're referencing Winthrop Street.
Yep, well, because it's the perfect example of what came up. It's the Winthrop Street idea, right, and the traffic. But, as soon as we take it away, there's this new phenomenon in the city of Medford where I don't have parking, the city has to provide it for me. I don't know that we can do that all the time. Right, and so it's a problem. But I will say this, the Traffic Commission has, in my 4.5 years, worked for a safer community.
Yeah.
But we have never made everyone happy.
Yeah, and I know we're not going to make everybody happy, and Winthrop Street was huge, came here, we talked about it.
Yep.
You guys had a big discussion on it. I think even I used the phrase reasonable accommodation in the Traffic Commission meeting for that one.
Yep.
I think where I'm more targeting is sometimes you'll get something that comes down from Traffic Engineer Blake. Say, let's take Auburn and North Street. We had a committee of the whole on that almost 2 years ago.
Yep.
And Director Blake proposed some, what I thought were reasonable changes to address people driving down streets, one-way streets the wrong way, and shortening very, very long crosswalks at a dangerous intersection and putting in a little bit more signage. Kim's on the agenda. Director Blake thinks it's a good idea. One person who abuts the project says they don't like it, and it's been on the table for 2 years. That's the kind of thing that I'm trying to avoid.
Yeah, I'm not so sure it's still on the table, but I'll follow up with you, but I have a petition of like 100+ people who came out against that and the plans and for multitude of reasons. And it just gets to be an issue of, at this point in time, the Traffic Commission has to send all those concerns back to engineering. I keep going back to this thing. We do not design the changes, right? I got a great understanding of it all because I'm a police officer, but we don't do it. Every little thing has this national highway transportation that you have to kind of follow these leads on what you're going to do. And I know we put a good plan together, but there were community needs that people started objecting and said, what about this and this? And I think they have to be addressed.
And that's fair. And that I respect. That's the process. We had 40 people at a committee the whole, and 38 of them loved the idea that was proposed. And my concern is less so that we can try to balance the interest there, but that it doesn't get lost for a year, 2 years down the road. That's the piece where I'm like, I understand there's people who aren't going to like changes, and I understand trying to have a process where we try to understand those concerns and incorporate them.
Yeah.
I just don't like the piece where sometimes it's like the concerns come up, it has to go back to engineering, and then it just kind of falls off the radar,
Yep. And I'll add an additional thing that we've been thinking about, or as commissioner, I've been thinking about also. So you get a proposal like that. We'll just use it as somewhat of an example where, okay, we need to redesign this whole intersection and everything.
Yeah.
Director Blake can say, do this, and this, draw it up, and the Traffic Commission can say, sure. And we just put like a set of lights is almost $1 million, right? Then you put like a $1 to $2 million burden on the city, and I don't know that is necessarily what the Traffic Commission's purpose is for, right? Again, regulatory body, it all gets decided, it all gets designed. We vote that you can enforce that crosswalk, you can enforce that set of lights. I think over time, people have looked at the Traffic Commission as being the end all, is to say, you design it, you tell us what to do here, we want this, you approve it, it gets done. And a lot goes into it, right? A lot of money to change the intersections and those things. So it's
this one was painting signs, so.
Yeah, well, even painting signs cost money, which we will be talking about afterwards, right? I mean,
not $1 million, but for me, my flip side of it is, if you think it's the safest intervention, I think that's helpful for us to know, because maybe we can't afford it today, but maybe we need it. How can we make a plan to afford it in 2 years, 5 years down the road? And that's the piece of it. And it's not a criticism of you, although you are the chair of the Traffic Commission. I know that you don't design the roads and you're not the only person who votes on it, but I think in Medford, we've gotten in this habit of things, we don't analyze what our actual end goal need is. And that means that we kind of never get there because we don't know where we're trying to get to. And that's my thing. I think that's happening with some of these ideas and projects and different places where, I like what we're doing at Main and South. I think that new intervention with the curbing is great, but our goal 3 years ago was a full set of lights and reconfiguring the whole thing. And
that's still coming, right?
Right.
And again, that's the state. The state decided.
No, I guess
it even sort of surprised me that they wanted to extend that island up. And I'm like,
yeah. And I get that. And I know that one's multi-jurisdictional, but I think there's just a few examples I could point to where there are places where we've all generally agreed that we could do better. we get a little caught up in the specifics, and then the process, there kind of falls through a gap and hole in the process, and we don't really get where we wanted to go.
So to a large extent, I believe, I agree with what you're stating on like that we need a better, or at least a holistic approach to a lot of the things we're doing. As far as, it's not just urban design, but traffic is a large part of all of that, and to go forward, and we can all participate. It's, the traffic commission is the hardest part-time job I've had in a long time. So,
yeah, I can imagine. I've seen that. I'm glad it's not this council, another one for this council to have a knockdown drag out about.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
Although it's interesting, but all good stuff that we constantly,
and
I'm glad that we're consistently looking at the rules and the roles of the traffic commission. We meet regularly on this, and you'll see some changes coming up. The question is when those changes will come about, as fast as we can make them happen, but there's a lot of work that needs to go into it.
And on the holistic piece and the process piece, if there's ways that this council can have any sort of role by ordinance that assists you, I think we are all willing and ready to do that.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm good. Thanks, Madam President.
Thank you. Councilor Carviallo.
I answered them all.
Some of them got into, some did. So we gotta go. First, I want to thank you for the work you've done in a short period of time to bring us, police department up to a modern department that addresses all the needs of the community. So thank you for that. And always, for always having an open office. So as I look around the city now, I see, I think we probably have the youngest police department in the area. I mean,
well, I don't look at the area.
Kind of makes me feel old.
I think everybody has
when everyone's like around 20 years old, it looks like, how many retirees do you have coming up?
So that was just asked to me of the other day. I don't think we have any scheduled. So 65 years old, we have to retire.
Right.
So it's a mandatory retirement of police officers, and we look at those as a benchmark. And I don't think we have one coming up for related to that in the next 2 years.
So we're good for a few years.
Good for a few years.
Before we return.
Do I anticipate we may lose 3 to retirement? I mean, anyone can leave at any time. I'm guessing a number could be about
I
3
think they asked about officers in the academy.
Yes, again, we're going through the process right now. We're pushing it along. We have, we're slated to try to put 6 in the academy by July 17th, I think the date is.
So by next year, we'll be up to a better number than 73 patrolmen?
We should be, yes.
Okay. The police station.
Yes.
Are we funding it properly for management and maintenance? I know that's been a weak point of the city for many, many years. We don't take care of our property. Are we spending enough money
We
to
have a
maintain the
cleaning crew
property?
that's in there. It's working. I don't have any issues. Paul Vigi, who's the facilities maintenance guy, is constantly over in our police department working. We've, a new building, we had some growing pains, especially with a few different areas. They're all kind of working through and resolved itself. It takes a long time to get an HVAC system balanced in a new building, and we may have,
So we're spending enough money to keep the building up to its proper standards.
to the best that I can tell, because even some of those that don't fall into my, under my budget, but I can't be happy with what's going on with the building right now. So
You can get HVAC balance in this building.
yeah, it's everywhere.
Question I ask every year, I know, you don't want to answer it, and I know you struggle to fill details.
Yep.
Every day.
Yep.
Is there a plan to bring the retirees on to lessen the burden on you?
There's always a plan. It really is about negotiations with, both unions when it comes down to this. And we've done some considerable work
Because I
on
see
this.
many cities have them. They allow them to work for a few years after they retire. And I drive by and I see work projects unmanned with no detail on them.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, and it is a problem. I mean, what's happening is, I'm not going to say we're down significantly in police officers, but we are down significantly in police officers who certainly have an interest in working some extra time, right? But the kind of quandary we're having a little bit with police officers, retired police officers working, is that they have to meet all. If you're going to wear this uniform as a police officer, just do a road job as a retiree, you have to meet all the standards of post requirement and all the training, and that's a burden on the police departments also. So we're trying to find ways around that and get some assistance to help with that.
Thank you. 2 more questions. How many police union contracts are not settled yet?
We have 2 police units, and they're both open.
They're not settled yet. They're open still.
They're open, yes.
And my last question. It seems like your budget is level funded. Were there any needs that weren't addressed in here
None.
that you would like to see? Nothing?
Some of the things I shifted around, and
No
as
wish
far as the
list?
expense things, we just.
No wish list?
Oh, a wish list is different than budget needs. I get asked that question all the time. I got a huge wish list, but it's a totally different question, right? But, yeah, that's a totally separate thing, but look at, I mean, there's a lot of cities and towns that you go through ups and downs economically, and the police departments, survive, and we get those things. But I'll go back to what I told you. If you were to give me 100 more officers, I don't know where I'm going to get them. And I know that sounds negative, but it's hard to hire right now. So,
And last but not least, is Alva going to be there longer than you for another chief?
I have already told Alva she will have another chief.
What's this? You're the third chief or
She
fourth
will-
chief for her?
She's healthy as a horse. I don't want to talk about her. That jinxing her. She'll leave tomorrow.
God bless Alva. Thank you, chief.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the council? I know we had talked about this in person, and you mentioned the education component of around traffic. Is there any different approach to traffic enforcement or hours, just in consideration of increase in traffic deaths, pedestrian deaths nationwide at the state level?
Yeah, I mean, so the good thing is, when we get these new offices, we can, move some people around, we can increase our traffic. We've maintained a traffic unit separate from patrol for many, many years, and sometimes that gets hit and then a little open. It's doing really well, and we're going to kind of continue to do that, focus on that. One of our sergeants at traffic sergeants does a lot of social media stuff like YouTube videos, and we put those out in the past to be successful, but we really have to start it. We have to kind of do our own internal public safety kind of support, because traffic's back, right? I mean, I don't know if we had a lull in the pandemic, and I think people learned how to drive very poorly during the pandemic, but now they're all out there on the roads again, and while the increase in cars have gone, people's sentiments are still kind of spiked, right? And so it's showing up in some aggression and some speeds, but we'll continue. I can tell you, even my patrol units are out there very actively increasing, on traffic enforcement and parking enforcement. And it still could be, overwhelming at some sort of times, but it's educating the people and getting people to understand that doing the right thing makes for a safer community. Slow down, right? We have a 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. Amazing what you could do to make a safe city if everyone just did that. But what do you see people coming through here? They're coming, a lot of going to work, coming home from work. And I haven't met a person yet who's, casually going to work or casually going home from work, right? They're all in a rush. Doesn't help. And then add, AI. So I'm the second department head now said that, right? But the advent of things, we've talked about this for years, but the advent of Waze, right? And things like that, are just telling people what to do right now. And it's taken away a lot of the human element of driving, because you're following just a machine telling you where to go and what to do to save 30 seconds. Right? And we have all these rules. Don't look at your phone, don't text and drive. But nobody's actually put out that says, stop listening to Waze telling you where to go. And it is people are disconnected from their obligations on the road, driving safely, when they're listening to a phone tell them what to do. Because they think, if I miss this turn, I'm doomed. I'll be sitting in traffic for hours. But if you ever used Waze and just look at alternate routes, yeah.
Was on the road every single day. Waze does not work. If you don't follow Waze and you stay on the straight road, you'll see that it'll change. It'll get you there quicker. So don't always follow the Waze, because it doesn't always get you there the fastest way.
I really just brought it up because I felt obligated to bring up AI now, so I just kind of found that, and it fit the answer. So
of course, yeah, and I appreciate it, and I appreciate the education part. I also appreciate, sitting at the left-hand turn onto Harvard Ave from High Street and watching those cars get pulled over. So things that when you're not supposed to be turning. So
yes.
I appreciate the education. I think enforcement also,
helps.
It's a carrot and stick kind of thing. And 5 to 7, I believe, basically rush hour. There's a sign
You know
right
that
there.
too well. Yes.
Great. Any other questions from counselors? Seeing none. Thank you so much, Chief. Go ahead.
Quick question. Are we doing, I have traffic commission.
Oh, yes.
traffic
Yeah,
supervisors.
yes.
Do we want to do it now or?
Do you want to take, yes, any objection to taking traffic? Okay. So yeah, if you want to, anything you want to share?
No, I just, I mean, look at the traffic commission, it is what it is, and we're really working to sort of redefine our roles and ourselves going forwards, but I already spoken that. But as it comes to traffic supervisors, I will tell you, that is we were lucky in the city. We had some really dedicated and long-term traffic supervisors. We hire about 25 each year, and even with that, we had 10 in reserve, right, every single time, and they moved up through the years. A lot of them have retired, right? A lot of them reaching retirement age, and we are struggling to fill the traffic supervisor roles and to fill those obligations. That's a burden on my police officers. When you see 5 traffic posts that crossing children not filled in the morning, there's police officers who leave their shift and come off, and we're using everything from lieutenants and captains and detectives to cover those roles and back and forth. But it's not necessarily a knock on them. They are valuable, employees. It's just that we're having a hard time replacing some of them. They have to take some sort of time off, here and there, because everyone deserves their equal time off. But it's getting to be a fine line. I say this all the time. If you want to be a traffic supervisor, sign up. It's on the website. You can be there. It is a very rewarding job. Who gets to interact with kids every single morning, seeing them laughing and smiling, go to school and getting them across the school safe. So that's the only thing I say. I truly appreciate all the work they do. And if we could hire more, it'll be better.
I think, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think they're keeping us together in some of the traffic areas for sure. They're keeping all of us safe. It's not just the kids.
They know the kids, they know their area, right? And as we hire new ones, they develop and they say, no, I like this location. I want to stay here. And it helps us. But it's a struggle. Everyone's struggling to hire, right? It's not a phenomenon that's local to Medford only. So maybe that'll change.
Do you believe we have Counselor Singh?
Yeah, I did realize this might be a better question for the traffic engineer based on the answer you gave Councilor Bears earlier, but hearing about Waze made me think that I did learn that a city government can ask Waze for all of its data to see, where, like, to get numbers on traffic and making those decisions and safety and all of that. And you might be able to answer this, you might not be. Todd Blake might be the better person to go to, but do you know if as a city we've asked Waze for that data?
Waze is sometimes responsive to us. Like, occasionally we'll sit there and say, hey, we're making some changes here in the city. Can you put this as a do not enter street or something along those lines? Sometimes they're responsive and sometimes they're not. They try to be responsive, but I just think they probably get those requests all over the place. Yeah. We have not yet asked them for statistics, and I will look into that. I mean, we have, our crime analyst, crime statistics person. I almost tried to say statistician, but I said it right there. He can get working on that right away and see what they will provide for us. It'll be interesting to see what they do.
Yeah, I don't know if the data might be able to help you, but I mean, it'd be good for our city to get the data. I was at a meeting.
It might be good for the educational purpose too, to say, hey, listen, I know where the traffic problems are, right? It's instinctive. Yeah. You see it and we deal with it all the time, but maybe, finding a way to publish that sort of stuff and just say, hey, listen, you're creating a burden on the city. Can you find a new way to go to school? Can you stop using Waze? Can you?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
No one's going to listen to that, but we can.
Yeah, I was in a meeting and one of the people worked for Waze, and they said that any city government can request the data for free. The statistics from Waze for free.
That's good information. Yeah, we'll try to take advantage of that source. See what they provide us.
Thank you, Councilor Singh. Thank you for being here, Chief.
Anything else?
Appreciate it.
Thank you all. Appreciate it. Yep. Good night.
All right, we will go to Planning, Development, and Sustainability, which is page 122. And we have Director Alicia Hunt here, and for expenditures, we have $779,084. Up $101,460, 14.97% from the prior year. Director Hunt, I know you're very, you're very familiar with all of us. Any highlights you want to share that we might not know or you want to call out, and then we'll go to questions.
And I feel like I'm in front of you so often that you know a lot of the work that I'm doing, and in lieu of the time, I'm happy to just take questions unless you would like me to highlight stuff.
Sure, we'll go, yeah, I mean, yeah, Adam's usually the one who would say, no, absolutely not, don't talk, and so we'll go to questions.
I just have one.
Councilor Scarpelli.
Thank you. And I appreciate what your team is doing. Something I think that you look at local communities where they have teams and teams of people on the development, the community development team. Even some cities have their own attorneys with, I know it's a luxury. So I understand it's a difficult position. I think that just one question I'll ask every department head is staffing, from your administrative staff to your team. Do you think you're staffed adequately? Is there, I mean, other than, and I take that, and I love, you're the only one that really does this, but I love how you backfill with students and take advantage of that. I think that's a great benefit. So, but other than that, I'm talking, Victor was a great example. He came in and really elevated the department, and it's sad to see him go, but at the same time, what do you think you would need to really have the ultimate team as a growing community? And, some people have talked about to have the paintbrush to paint the development in this community is so exciting. So, what do you think?
Right. Well, thank you. As you all know, we do a lot. You could give me 100 people and I would say we could do more, right? That's true.
Yeah.
We've been working pretty to bring in additional staff positions with CDBG, CPA funding, making that full-time. So we've added a few positions this year through that particularly. And I like this idea of growing the department in measurable amounts. So we are adding some positions that are off budget with the CDBG we're using to fund stuff. I got a grant from MAPC for a climate person. Really, it's the climate backfilling that I'm really looking for. I literally wouldn't want another position on top of what I have right now because I want to fill these. I have 2 people who have started in the last 2 weeks. I'm looking at bringing on 3 more people in the next couple of weeks. That's a pace that we can manage. Then I want a year to work with them and actually let's get things going and get things settled. And then that's not to say that next year I wouldn't be actually pushing for another position. Some of our positions have been ARPA funded and grant funded, and bringing them into the general fund is something that we're working on doing. And how can we use CDBG? This city had not previously been funding many positions with CDBG, and we realized we could be funding more of them. So that's where the housing planner is coming from. And that's where I see the economic development planner being funded after the ARPA funding runs out. So there is, space there. I can always do more.
Right.
But
No,
with
I understand.
with the adequate staffing.
Looking at it with that format, I understand. And I think that for us, I think the important piece is that, the zoning piece that we're going to be working with and having your team, we have enough staff to run that team, because I think when, we were involved with it next door, and, even the recreation department was part of that, weekly meeting at different neighborhoods to talk about the impact from recreation, from police to fire, and what do we want to see in that neighborhood. So we think we have enough, you have enough staff. If we look at what we're trying to use that $50,000 for, we'll be okay with that.
Well, it's interesting because Somerville did their zoning all in-house and they took 7 years to do it.
Right.
And I don't think we want to take 7 years. And I think we could really benefit with bringing in outside consultants to do the work.
That's why when I said that, I think having that team.
We do actually have so Danielle, who's our new senior planner, she has extensive experience with zoning. She was actually on the zoning board in Somerville for 15 years.
Okay, great.
And she staffed zoning boards and planning boards in 3 other communities. So we've been trying to bring some of this experience in to help supplement the work that we're doing. So,
She worked under George Proakis.
She did work under him, yeah.
amazing. And I know Watertown loves him, so, but this is great. So I appreciate that. And I think that that's what's important, that as we're going through the process, the zoning and your team, I think this is the partnership that we need to really, to see where Medford's where it wants to go. So
Yeah.
not where we want it to go, but where Medford wants it to go. So thank you.
Absolutely. And we do think we really laid the groundwork for that with some of the comprehensive plan, doing community meetings,
Yep.
studies, and that was to start to get us ready
Yeah.
to do the zoning.
I think I've said in the past, though, I think that you do a great job in getting the word out. But it's funny that it seems like not every group gets the word. And it's not because of not your effort. I think I said this in the past, that it seems to be the same group of people that are responding to those surveys, and I never meant to mean that this is, you're doing something wrong. What I'm saying is trying to find that, that's why this whole process with the zoning group that we're trying to bring together to get, and really getting more people involved for what we want to see Medford, what's the vision in Medford. So thank you.
And I will say that when people say to me, oh, I didn't hear about that, whatever that is, I always say to them, where would you have liked us to share that information so that you would have heard
It's not
it?
easy, yeah.
Because I need to know where people are looking. And if anybody does hear like, oh, they're reading this paper or this outreach, or this is a place you can put it, I need to know that. And just shy of, we can do some flyering, but we don't have the staff to flyer every door of every house. We need to do mailings, and direct mailings are expensive, but we did do some.
I think you saw a big difference when police did their community outreach and they went into the neighborhoods.
Yeah.
I think that that's probably an avenue that I would like to see as we go through this process, going into the little pockets and say, we're having this meeting and what do you envision your neighborhood to look like? So I think that, and if they don't come out there, listen, I work in a department where we use 15 different avenues to spread the word. And then we put it in 66 different languages, and we put it on billboards, and we put it on fences, and we have the QR codes everywhere. And then I always get the phone call that says, I knew nothing about this program. So I understand it's a tough line, but I appreciate you listening. So thank you.
Thank you. Vice President Bears.
Thanks, Madam President. Thanks for being here. Thanks for being one of the last ones. How many positions are one-time grant funded right now, outside of the 8 that are in the general fund budget?
So the climate planner is a 1-year grant from the MAPC. And right now, the economic development planner is ARPA funded.
That's different from economic development director?
Right.
Okay.
So you guys know Yvette's been in that position.
Yeah.
That's ARPA funded, but we have identified that we could use that position. So Yvette's leaving us. And so we've posted it, but we've made sure that the language is appropriate, that we could fund it using CDBG funding.
Okay.
So and everything else so we have a few that are grant funded, but the rest are permanent grants, CDBG, CPA.
So just the 2 are one time. Okay, great. Sorry, but you were saying that there was ARPA, people who are funded through ARPA right now, and
It's the economic development planner.
yeah.
And then the staff planner, and the staff planner that we brought on the budget in this one.
Okay.
So you see the increase here, that is the staff.
So next
Right.
year,
So it's Amanda's position, staff planner, that's been ARPA funded, that's showing in the general fund this coming year.
right. I just want to make sure. So next year for ARPA, you found sources for all the ARPA funded positions already?
Yes.
Great. Cool.
I couldn't handle the stress of losing them.
No, I don't think our new growth number could either. Just in terms of grant management, you were saying kind of that you manage a lot of grants and you're staffing that. Are you adjusted how you staff that a little bit now?
So that's what we're adjusting how we staff that.
Yeah.
So the CDBG manager position turned over.
Yeah.
And we've posted that position as CDBG and grants manager.
Okay.
And with the idea that will do do some of the additional grants. The CPA manager, we said we'd like put that position to also do, so that position's been part-time. We made that a full-time job, which we do think there's full-time work there, but we said full-time plus some additional grants management.
Yeah.
And then we're also looking at the city's ARPA funds manager to do some additional federal grants management for us.
Okay.
So we're sort of pulling those together. And then our head clerk really is a finance position, a lot of it. And that's actually why Teresa's with me tonight. She's been serving in that role. By the way, she's your new CPA manager, but I haven't backfilled her position. So she helps me with the budgets, the finances, the invoices and everything. So that position also does some amount of the financial tracking of grants.
Got it. I noticed that this repairs and maintenance machinery in the ordinary expense line for energy and environment, it was at 25,000 spent this year, but only 10,000 budgeted.
Do you remember what we spent? I know some of it's the turbine, but
yes, I can speak to that. There was an error in a budget transfer. It's on my to-do list to get that corrected, hopefully by end of next week.
Okay.
So the actual spend is about, it will be a little bit over, but by only about $2,000. So
Okay.
it's just an error.
Was that just from a different account in your budget or a different account in
Correct.
somebody? Okay, got
Correct.
it.
That's
You know
why
what?
we have a finance person.
I'm all set. Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Carviallo.
Thank you, Madam President, and I'm in your office enough. I think you know that. My only question is, where are we in replacing Victor?
So
Have we
we
interviewed
did a
anybody?
round of interviews. We did a round of interviews. He's really hard to replace. You know, he was an amazing find. He is still working a few hours a week for us. So we did a round of interviews. We had a candidate. She ghosted us. We've done another round of interviews. We're making a decision now. I don't want to actually say too much more than that, but I'm hopeful that that's going to move forward this time. But it was really hard. I will tell you that almost every applicant was from outside of the state of Massachusetts. It's hard to find this position.
That's it for me.
Yeah.
Thank you. Counselor Singh.
Between Councilor Barris and Councilor Caravillo, they've covered my two main questions. You were close. You were close. It was. I guess asking more about the economic development part of the office. Do you think that we will eventually need expanded capacity, especially if we do rezoning and we bring more business in? Do you think we'll need more capacity on that side of the office to reach out to businesses, to try to attract businesses?
So when we're successful at what we're doing, we really needed somebody to get the ball rolling and to get the word out there that Medford was open for business and that Medford was open for new businesses and for development. And we've really done that, and people are really hearing that. So now we're getting calls. We need to field those. We need to be doing some studies. We're working with the zoning too, to make sure that the changes in zoning are appropriate. You know, some of it is telling the businesses that we're available, and some of it is actually making places where the zoning is appropriate for the businesses they want to bring and we want them to bring here. So that's some of what we need to be working over the next 6 months, a year, 18 months, is getting that. Sorry if I'm a little shaky. It's cold in here. Next time, please warn me so I can get my jacket.
We all have different interpretations of how it feels.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We got it for you, right?
I know, and it's working.
Yes.
I sweat in the shower, so
Yeah, just warn me.
Just when it's like 79 when we get here, and then 72 when I turn it on.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry. It'll be more than about 10 minutes.
So the other thing that there's the development, the director tends to work with those big developers. And then we try to have the planner be doing work with small businesses. And I have a whole list of things now that we have outdoor dining sort of really rolling. And we've got a facade program that's working pretty well. We really want to be doing the next one that we're going to take on is actually signs. So it was interesting. I've had some of our new small businesses tell me that they had trouble getting a company willing to do signs for them in Medford. And so I made a note. I said, Yvette, you're leaving. As soon as I get your position replaced, that person is going to go figure out what's going on. Why don't they want to do sign? What's hard in Medford? Let's understand that. Once we do that research, figure it out. I will bring it, like, is it something in City Hall? Is it in our rules? I don't know. But it was really interesting to sort of hear that. So that's sort of like the next thing that I want them to do. But a lot of what we'd love to get the word out is with the small businesses that we can help them. And we want to make sure that as soon as we hear that a small business is thinking about coming into Medford, we can step them through this process so that by the time they're coming in front of you for their common victualer's permit, we've whispered to them, by the way, when you're in front of city council, that's a great time to promo your business. Tell them all about it. Tell them about your operating hours. Think of it as, don't be scared, be there to promo it. There's nobody like giving them advice on the way through. Do they get their permits? Yes. But could they be doing just a better job in that outreach and stuff? You can see the difference between the businesses who actually are familiar with Medford's process and the ones who have no idea why they're in front of the city council. But to help them through that whole process, to help them figure it out so it'll go more smoothly. That's what we'd really like to have the economic development planner doing. But we needed to get outdoor dining rolling. We needed to do these other things first. So that's where I think we're going to be going. Once we get really started with that, then we'll have a better feeling for how much work did I just tell somebody to do. One of the things I always say to my staff is, I'm going to give you work, I'm going to give you projects, and I don't know. I'm not telling you how to do your job. I'm telling you what to do. You tell me if I've just given you too much work to do, and you come let me know if it's more than you can handle. And by the way, if you're bored, you need to be coming in my office because I got more for you to do. So I hope that kind of answers your question.
That helps. I think you're selling your department a little short because on the economic development aspect, in terms of reaching out to small businesses, I've talked to small business owners who really they've told me that your office has been super helpful.
Good.
I've talked with Yvette a ton, and I know that she's worked with all these businesses to get them, and Victor too, but to get them all these resources, advising, helping them with data, just smart business strategy.
Right.
And, a lot of residents, they always ask, when is the economic development coming to Medford? But there is already a lot of work being done. And I think this is also a good time to showcase that. And of course, we're all excited for more development to come, but there's a lot of good foundational work that's being done right now that I think should be highlighted as well.
We do have a small business guide in PDF on the website for businesses to get started. And there is a nonprofit that will help people with business plans and how to run a small business that we connected the library to. So it's on the library resources to connect to that if you know somebody who needs help getting started with a small business. So.
Any other questions from the council? Councilor Collins.
Thank you, President Morrell. Thank you for being here. Thanks for being one of the last to present. You've covered most of what I would hope you would cover already. Obviously, I could go on and on about all the good that your department does in our city. Thank you so much. Obviously, not all value can be encapsulated in, how much revenue and development and connections you're fostering in the city, but, just looking at the long page of accomplishments that are supported by outside grants, with the folks that you do have at your disposal, it really is just staggering how much you're able to do with the resources you have. So I feel like that always should be said. I just wanted to circle back to the climate planner position. I'm just curious if you can speak a little bit more to that, what you're hoping that person will be doing specifically over the next year. And then if you said it, I missed it, if you have a plan for if that position will continue after the MAPC grant runs out and how that'll be funded.
Right. So to answer the latter part first, that is the one position that I don't have a plan for how to fund other than to say to the mayor, I'd like to see it in the general fund next year. I will say that I think there is an argument for either economic development planner or climate planner Either one could be funded with CDBG, but we don't have enough money that we're allowed to use for administration to do both of them and the housing planner and the CDBG manager. There's enough money there for 3 positions, not for 4. And we've sort of said the economic development planner, that has to stay. So that's the one that I'm going to be asking for. The grant was truly around policy and making change to zoning and regulations was what they were willing to offer the grant for. So that's what I wrote, that it would do that. But I also said they would help with our greenhouse gas inventory that we do every year. They'd have to help with our annual climate reporting. They would set up our climate equity council that we outlined in the climate plan. So those are the main things that I said in the grant that we would do. I do a bunch of clean energy projects, solar and stuff. And so I would be hoping that they would be able to help with that. Some of the building efficiency projects I have been giving to our facilities manager. And so I partner with our facilities manager on like new HVAC. We're doing some studies of like upgrading the HVAC in various buildings and stuff. And frankly, he's managing those. And I'm just sort of like half an ear, like, okay, I know who you hired. Okay, I saw the scope. Great. So does that help?
Yeah, it does. Thank you. Thanks for outlining the scope of the work of that position over the next year. And it's great to have a heads up that that's one that will be most likely an ask for fiscal year 25. I'm glad that this council knows that in advance. Obviously that's climate resiliency is an integral goal to many of our cities' plans. So I'm glad that we have a full year to hopefully partner with you in making sure that that has a place in next year's general.
Right. And there's plenty of climate work that somebody in that role could be doing. They're going to be focusing more on the regulatory aspects the first year because that's what the funding was available for. And I said, well, that's a good start. Let's get them in the door. Then we'll keep going.
Thank you.
Counselor Singh.
Quick question while we have you. So one of the goals that's stated for this upcoming fiscal year is implementing the redevelopment of Medford Square in alignment with our plans. And I was just wondering if you were able to give us a general, it doesn't have to be a concrete timeline, but a general timeline of what we might see before us or what your office's goals are.
Right. So for the Medford Square project, we've been working with Mass Development on the diff. And part of working with that, the staff from Mass Development have realized that we would really benefit from having a consultant help us write an RFP. And so they are trying to help us get an out of cycle grant, or basically an expansion of that grant that we currently have, to add on a consultant who would help with that. And the thought was that if we get it, it would be starting July 1st. And honestly, I need an economic development director to help with that project, to help lead the project. So we're working slowly on it with the hope that I could bring in some more staff by July 1st, a consultant and all, to actually move that project forward. We have to write the RFP. We have to figure out what it says. Then we have to put it out on the street. So my best case scenario here is that I get the help that I need, that we do the writing in July and August, and then September, we put it out on the street in mid-September. And then it's my understanding that that should actually be open for 2 to 3 months for people to be able to really develop a concrete proposal for that. So then that's putting us into mid-November to get the results back on it. And then we'll see what it says. So.
Great. Thank you.
Any additional questions from the council? Seeing none. Thank you so much, Director Hunt. Thank you, Teresa, for being here.
So we had, right. I have like 5 or 6 boards and commissions, and I will say that Teresa is actually more expert on them than I am. So
Does
I thank
anyone
her
have any
for staying.
questions on boards or commissions?
Most were level funded.
Here, say it to the microphone.
Most of the boards and commissions, which include Historical Commission, Historic District, Conservation Commission, Zoning Board of Appeals, and the Community Development Board, and Bicycle Commission. Thank you. Sorry, Bicycle Commission, if you are watching. Most were level funded with the exception of the Zoning Board of Appeals, and that is due to two additional members being appointed to the board, so that is for their stipends. Otherwise, I believe Conservation Commission also added an additional person. So it's just a matter of adding 3 stipends to our lovely volunteers in the community helping us progress our projects. Any questions, though?
See, none.
Excellent.
Thank you both so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you all so much.
All right, we will close it out. We have executive and law, which I think both would be you, Madam Chief of Staff. Maybe we'll take a beat as everyone is going in opposite directions. Any of the two counselor, or does anyone have a preference whether we start with law or executive first?
I have questions for executive.
Okay. Counselor Knight, are you here? Are you with us? I don't know where Counselor Knight is. He's somewhere. Okay. When we get back, when people get back to their seats, we'll start with executive. I guess. I also don't know. I mean, yeah. I can see Counselor Scarpelli walking back towards us. I'm just going to give him a second too.
Oh, good, thank you.
You don't really love this. Just suddenly.
All right, so we are going to executive office. Expenditure summary is $640,390, down $471,790, less 42.42% versus the prior year. And that is the, okay, yeah, if you want to just like highlight that. I know it says it in the summary, but if you just want to note, because that's a huge number. So if you want to note why that is.
Certainly. Thank you, President Morrell. Thank you to the council for this opportunity to discuss the budgets. As a point of levity, hopefully this will create a little bit of an icebreaker. These are all hard acts to follow based on tonight, considering I'm here to talk about the executive budget and the law budget. I'm certainly no comedian, but those who work with me day to day know that I attempt to bring some smiles to the conversation whenever possible. So I'm attempting to do that here today, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have. So
we're going to do executive and then we'll do law. Yep.
On the matter that you raised, President Morrell, the budget for the executive budget is going down what ultimately is 42.4%. That is I would call an artificial decrease. And the reason that's an artificial decrease, and I would characterize it that way, is because historically in the last couple of years' budgets, we've budgeted some funds for contracted agreements, so that there could be a transfer when a negotiation has settled for a contract. Whereas we have a number of contracts that are currently in negotiations, and we're working towards settlement on obviously all of those. We have moved those funds out of the executive budget, and we have placed a much larger line inside the budget that is identified on the transmittal letter, which attempts to capture well, we don't know what the full scope will be ultimately, but the best scope we can determine. And ultimately, it takes it puts more control in the hands of the city council is what it ultimately does, because it's in a completely separate budget that the office doesn't have the opportunity to spend without a transfer. It's really not materially different, but in some ways there are some nuances as to the control that it provides the council. So just, that's all it is. It's nothing big, it's nothing fancy. It's just what it is.
Great, thank you. Any other highlights or things you want to call out before we go to questions? Sorry, any other highlights or things you want to call
I
out before we go to
apologize.
questions?
I was interpreting that a different way. Nothing else specifically. I mean, there are some changes there's really virtually no changes in terms of the expense side of the budget. There are some changes to the personnel side of the budget as a result of the non-union COLAs. Happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Go to Vice President Bears.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Madam Chief of Staff. My two questions are, well, I guess it may be three. My first one is on the negotiated salaries, it's gone from that 500K to 3 million. Obviously, that's a huge increase. Is that reflective? Is that a best estimate? Are we overestimating with the hopes that it will be, it's a $3 million thing. We're not sure we're actually going to spend. And as we've highlighted, I think there's priorities the council would like to see funded. That seems like the one area of the budget where it's not saying we know this is exactly how much we're going to have to spend on these positions and these expenses. Is that fungible at all? Or are you putting it there because it's really like a solid estimate of what the cost could be?
So this is hard to really truly answer the question.
Yeah.
And really be fair to any solution or scenario that might arise.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different contracts that are open.
Yeah.
It's not just a percentage potential increase to those contracts. There are other areas, there could be an increase that's agreed upon for, call it longevity, an increase that's agreed upon. I'm not saying we would or wouldn't. I'm just, saying that there's so many different categories. For me to be able to truly answer the question, we did our best faith estimate on this. So yes, it could go up, it could go down. The reality is there's no like set number, but what we are attempting to do is present what we need to capture in the budget so that there is a placeholder, so we don't go back to our past historical challenges of a structural deficit.
Yeah. Okay. Second piece is I know there's some staff positions in the department that are partially funded through the one-time ARPA federal grant funding. Is your plan to continue those positions in future budgets, or is that really like, obviously I would guess communications director you're going to keep, that's been a position in the city for a long time. I'm really thinking about that other communications position that's only 20% in the general fund right now.
Yeah.
Is the goal to keep it, or is it really an ARPA, public health related communications?
So it has kind of, it certainly was public health when we first introduced that position to the budget. It has really taken on quite a considerable amount of work throughout. At this point, it is certainly our intention to look to keep as many ARPA positions as possible. I'm not going to stand here and say they're not all going to be evaluated, but I also don't want to say that and put anyone in a position where they're worried about their job.
Yeah.
The reality of the situation is, are we going to try to keep them? Yes.
Okay. Yep. Last question is just, I know we've been funding one of the first things that we advocated for, I think the first budget we were here was the translation services line. And we've been funding those services out of ARPA funds, and it's still zeroed. Is the plan ARPA funds this year and hopefully bringing it back next year?
Yes. And if not next year, because ARPA would be halfway through, perhaps
Maybe half
halfway
and
through.
half. Yeah.
Certainly.
Okay, great. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Carviallo.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you for coming, thank you for staying this late. I think I missed, about the $500,000. Where did that move to? I see it's gone out here. Where did it go? Where did we move it to?
No problem. Through you, Madam President. So what we technically did was we moved that $500,000 to a line in and of itself, which is now it's essentially its own department, so to speak. So if you turn to the transmittal,
it's on page 6.
Thank you. You look at the bottom of the list.
Hold on.
Certainly, take your time.
Is it page 6?
Yes. And a look at the bottom of the list. You've got city total going in the reverse order: education, bonds and interest, pension, insurance, workers' comp, and then contractual agreements. That $3 million number that's up there, just halfway down a little bit. It's somewhere
Okay.
middle.
Yeah. So that's been moved into that?
Yep. And that accounts for the best estimate as it relates to open contractual agreements. And remember, we've got some contracts that have been open for some time.
So we had a capital plan presented to us a few weeks ago, and Councilor Bears asked a question, which is part of my question too. Is capital plan talked about projects going forward, but we never executed a capital plan to look at our current assets and see what needs to be fixed there. Is there a plan to do that? We have no inventory of the capital, of our current assets that the city owns right now.
So as a part of the capital planning process, through you, Madam Chair, to you, Councilor Caraviallo, our capital planning process was essentially a year-long process. It was a lot of work that went into that, and thanks to the Collins Center for assisting the city with that work. What ultimately, from a timeline perspective, we also hired the facilities manager kind of on what I would call the tail end of that capital planning process. The facilities manager, who comes to the city with an incredible amount of experience, is going to inform, at greater detail in the future capital planning as it relates to facilities, assuming your major component may be facilities. But certainly, as it relates to other capital matters, specifically fleet or roads, obviously the department heads have their own assessment level of that information and have contributed information into the capital plan.
I think what I'm driving at is before we start looking at new projects, I'd like to see where we stand with the assets that we have
There's
now.
a point of information, Madam President. Just since you, just since you said it was my question at the capital plan project, I'll just clarify the words that I used. Basically, what I was saying is we don't have a single number that is the cost to bring all of our assets up to a state of good repair. That was my specific. So we don't know. We know, the capital plan. There are items in it that are. Going obviously towards existing assets and trying to repair them, but we may not know actually for Fire Station 5, what would it cost to bring that to full state of good repair, right? So that was really the question, like what is the total cost to bring all of our capital assets to a state of good repair? And what percentage of that are we meeting with the capital plan?
I mean, if I may, and this is
I
more of
don't expect to answer the question.
Sure, I don't know that I can answer the question because my thinking is that would be a static analysis and everything, so I don't know. I've actually done such a static analysis on roads going back maybe 10 years ago. That's really not representative of the actual cost because it's static. But I don't know what best practices exist in other communities in this area that may inform how we could approach this in the future.
Right. The idea was that it would be dynamic. It would be get it once, and then once we have it once, reanalyzing it should take less time than it took to do it one time. Maybe every 3 or 5 years we do a reassessment. Because I think the pavement management plan says, here's the backlog. Here's how much they recommend funding every year to get there. So basically just something similar for all of our capital assets. And then we know, yes, it's 120 something million that we're doing over 6 years, but we need to spend $1 billion to get to a state of good repair. Like what is that? What is that? The denominator of the capital plan, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I really do believe that our facilities manager, and in this regard, I don't want to have a tall order for him over the course of the next year, and I don't know that we can accomplish this in 1 year either, because it is a tall order. But the city's facilities obviously need work. We're working on those things, and our facilities manager is going to be a huge component to that process and informing that process over time.
And my last question is, which upsets me a little bit. Everyone in your office, going by the chart, received between a 7 and a 10% raise, while most essential city workers still awaiting their modest raises. That's a little disheartening to me.
Yeah, and I mean, all I can do is address that head on through you, President Morrell, to you, Councilor Caraviallo. It's not something that, is any point of pride in any way, shape, or form. We obviously.
I'm not saying people don't deserve it.
No, and I appreciate that. I really, I'm doing my best here to kind of create a line and, break the ice a little bit here and create a line in the sand and try to approach things from a different approach. We want to settle these contracts. That's all I can truly say. There are some complications. There's always complications. Things are not as easy as they appear on the surface. With non-union personnel, the non-union personnel have not had adjustments to their wages, or really more importantly, to look at the actual positions and the CAFs, so that when we have a vacancy, how that affects the recruitment process is probably where I think it's most important to look at these areas from, because it's not about the individuals and the roles getting the adjustments. Certainly it is, especially for the people who haven't received those adjustments and have not had those agreed upon contractual agreements. That's important. That's critically important. And I can't undersell that enough. It's just, it's one of those things that we had a number of different employees or groups of employees across the organization that haven't had adjustments for a number of years. A couple of specific bargaining units as well as non-union folks. In my opinion, and I don't know that everyone on the council will agree with me on this. I don't know that it's all or none or all. I think we try to solve all of them, and that's the goal. And so, I want to make sure, in my best opinion, I think it was important to make the adjustment to non-union personnel. I don't mean that to be, an unethical statement, because obviously I recognize that affects my position, and it was never my intention for that to, be the root of my approach. But I think it's important because from a recruitment standpoint, for the city to get talented personnel, we need to remain competitive with those positions. And we've seen that, and I've tried not to step on hot button subjects, so I'll just leave it there.
We always step on landmines. So thank you.
I know I will eventually, but I'm doing my best.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Collins.
Thank you, President Morrell. Thank you so much for being here. My question was actually the translation line item, which you already answered.
Great.
So thank you.
Any additional questions for executive? Thought I had one, but it's gone now. Seeing, I know who to ask if I think of it. Seeing none, we will move on to law, which is on page 79. Thank you, Councillor Sang. Law Department expenditure summary is $552,403, up $8,875, 1.63% over the prior year. Do we want to go right into questions, or Councillor Carviallo?
Thank you. I don't see a line item for KP Law in here.
President Morrell, through you to Councillor Carviallo, it would be under professional services legal.
Okay, so it's under professional service.
So that's on page 82, if you're looking.
And are we paying KP Law out of any other accounts in the city of Medford?
Yes, we would pay them depending upon the nature of the work. If there was a zoning matter, it would come out of the Planning, Development, and Sustainability Department, for instance.
So is there a line item budget in every department for KP Law?
I would say that largely so not every budget, but some of our larger budgets do have some compensation incorporated into their budgets. Or it's hard to project what types of things may come up, right? Because as an example, I don't know off the top of my head what it is, but there's, a case in a department that I recently had to send off a bill for that I hadn't seen in my time here, right? And so I can't necessarily always predict when we're going to have a case come up for a department. There's a matter that needs to have support outside of the retainer.
So if I can ask this, Madam President, the question, can we get an answer to how many departments are paying KP Law and the amount that they're paying them on top of what the law, on top of the money that's been allocated in the law department budget? And one last question. It says a legal intern. Do we have an intern there last year?
We, through you, President Morrell, to Councillor Carviallo, we have had an intern, yes, and based on what we've seen, the amount of work has reduced. I think that's,
I don't know. I didn't notice when I only see Janice sitting in the office by herself all the time.
Yes,
I
it was a
didn't know
legal
that.
intern that was with the city a number of years ago, and I apologize to the legal intern. I haven't met this.
Did we have one
individual.
last year?
I believe so. I'm
Yeah.
not certain about last year, but I can say, this year.
I just didn't notice it.
Somebody came back, and unfortunately, I'm forgetting.
All right, I don't need a name. I just didn't notice the person.
Her name's Carla, Forrest.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's it for me.
Thank you, Counselor Singh. Counselor Scarpelli.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you for being here tonight. I too want to make sure that motions don't get in conversations, trying to stay as professional as possible, but is there an RFP open for legal services with KP Law?
To solicit, through you, President Morrell, to solicit alternative legal services? Is that what your question? No, not at this time. Legal services under, just as information, legal services under the law is exempt from, but certainly there's nothing stopping.
So, and I think that if you were sitting in this chair and you were listening to, outside sources, because we're really not getting much information when it comes from the main office here, and you hear situations like KP Law doing an investigation at the public schools over a coaching incident, KP Law doing an investigation in another department, KP Law overseeing the union negotiations, KP Law doing the mediation in contracts, KP Law defending the city of Medford with development issues. You can understand where when we don't get the answers and we get these different discussions from different paths, that when we ask questions like, what are we spending on KP Law, and we don't get the answer, I hope you can understand where the frustration comes in when we don't get it. I mean, and that's what's been so frustrating here. Because the bone of contention is that we really worked hard to get that city solicitor's position in for this council because we've been directly hurt. And to be honest with you, without having legal representation, we kind of look like we're just an organization where it just bypassed. There really isn't much faith in us, trust in us, or understanding that we have any sort of buy-in. So these have been the issues that I felt personally that when we talk about communication, we said it last night with the mayor, and anybody could say otherwise, but when talking to my fellow councils privately, the communication's been pretty lackluster at best when it comes to that. So with that, I just wanted to share that just so you understand where I'm coming from without emotion. But I think the other piece, I won't be here next week, but while I have you, I think I'm going to miss legislation. I don't see the $50,000 for the zoning piece that we were asked for and told we're getting next year. Is that something you could share today, where in the budget that is, or we're not getting it?
So through you, Madam President, Councilor Scarpelli, my understanding of the mayor's position on this is she communicated it to me, and I've communicated it to councilors here and there as we've had the discussion, is essentially that there's no material opposition on the matter, but we just want to make sure that the city's legal services can move forward as well. I recognize all of the things that you said before that point, that question, and I'm certainly thinking through that. I'm hopeful that while maybe it's not immediately apparent on the surface, we have taken back some comments and we've attempted to increase communication over time. I'm hopeful that there's some recognition by the council on that, but I think that there's always room for improvement, and I'm happy to continue to think deeply about how we can do that. I know you know this, and I know members of the council know this. There are certain things we can't discuss, but that doesn't preclude us from discussing the things we can discuss. And I am certainly open to improving my communication and the information that's needed. I feel the city's in a much better position, especially with finance director and especially our new human resources director. I think those things will add to considering the vacancy in finance director for as long as it was, I think that our current complement of department heads will help with our communication. And, again, I do believe that that things are based on not the words, and I don't mean to be in any way cliche, but I don't believe, I don't expect you to trust that my words are going to result in the communication, but I hope that you can reflect back to over the course of the last, 5-6 months and just look at some of the things we've tried to share with the city council. So the city council was up to date on especially hirings. There was a comment, I think it was yours, Councilor Scarpelli, about hires. We've modified that since. So, I again, action. So I'm about that. And I think that will be the telltale. But thank you. Thank you. Oh, it's not an opposition. It's just, we just want to make sure we can work through this together.
Any other questions from the council? Councilor Collins.
Thank you very much. Thanks again. Not a question, just, to sort of reinforce the point. I really appreciate all the explanations that you've offered here tonight. I appreciate your approach. I've, heard that about the $50,000 from the mayor as well. It's not news to me. I feel like it's worth putting on the record since we're talking about the law department, talking about the context of that line item. I know that's something that, will be in the budget that, I feel comfortable approving. I know that's not news to anybody in this room, but I just wanted to state that, clearly while we're on the topic. So thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Collins. And I just wanted, so that 96,000, that's the retainer for KP Law, correct?
Yes.
And then there's some money in other budgets that we'll ideally get. And then there's other money for settlements and anything else. And that's kind of what brings us up to that 450, which is what we got for the last year, correct?
Yeah, I would distinguish settlements because settlements are going to be in and of themselves. They're one-time costs that would need to, potentially have further appropriation. But beyond that, I think everything else you said was correct.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none. Thank you so much, Madam Chief of Staff. That's the end of our departments for tonight. On the motion of Vice President Barris to adjourn, seconded by Councilor Singh, all those in favor? All those opposed, motion passes, meeting adjourned.